Good morning, everyone. How are you? Mike. Guess what it is? Hump day. Hope you guys are all doing well this morning. I'm going to tell you straight off the bat, right? I woke up feeling some type of way. And I was considering should we just skip the rest of Jason Spiller's testimony and move ahead in the recap. Okay, that is a thought that I had, but like I said, I woke up feeling some type of way, so I feel like the better thing to do is play his testimony, the rest of it, because I think we have a little bit of the direct examination, and then I think and then we obviously have his cross examination, because he says some of the most profoundly ignorant statements. And when you're feeling some type of way and you need to, and you're in a mood, it's better to work out your issues on something like a testimony like this, so you don't hurt anybody's feelings. You know what I mean? So, if spicy gin ain't your vibe today, you don't want spicy, you're in the mood for something else, don't you worry about it. I won't judge. I'm not always in the mood for spice. Well, that's not true. I'm Mexican. I love spicy. So, um, but I'm not always in the mood for sweet. Actually, I don't like a whole lot of sweets. So, I'm not going to judge. I'll understand. But I am feeling spicy this morning about a great many things, and so I feel like this would be the perfect outlet to work out the spice. Also, Maria, yes, I did say that. My Maria says, "Good morning, Jen. Did you say the other day that your mom was a histologist?" That's my gig. Yes, my mom was a histologist for 30 years. I learned a great deal from hanging out in the pathology lab, and yeah, it was an interesting education. I've seen a lot of things over there in the histology or the pathology department. Yeah. So anyway, that is what we're going to do this morning. We're going to just go until I'm tired, or you guys are tired of me. And then also, I know that Susan Smith, her parole hearing is tonight, or today, sorry. So what I was thinking is, Melissa Jade has been covering Wade Wilson, and there's some emails that she's going to cover tonight on her show at 8:30 that I really want to listen to. But I also really want to talk about Susan Smith. I remember her case when it happened. I remember her after her trial and she was convicted, and they did a follow-up with the father of the children. Oprah did it, and I remember watching that, and I remember just how devastated he was back when this happened, and how devastated he was. I want to say that it was like, I'll have to look it up, but it feels like maybe 10 years after the fact, or maybe 5 years after the fact. But at any rate, that is a case that really stuck with me because, like, I remember Diane Downs, but the way that I remember Diane Downs isn't her, isn't actually Diane Downs. What I remember is Sarah Fawcett in Small Sacrifices playing Diane Downs. So, but Susan Smith's case, that I remember like it was yesterday. And so I definitely want to talk about that. So I will, you can hear something in the background, probably Alice, because she's sitting right up on the mic. Hold on, let me look at these mic settings. Give me just a sec, okay? All right, that should be better. I fixed it. For whatever reason, the Streamlabs reverted back to the microphone for the webcam that I never use. So now it should be fine. Let me just make sure. Yeah, that should have fixed it. I guess I need to check that every so often. Apparently, it doesn't keep the setting, even though that's how you have it set. Thanks for that, Streamlabs. So anyway, um, yeah, there we go. Okay, that's what it was. Okay, so I do want to cover that tonight, her parole hearing. Now, I I think the way that this parole hearing is going to work is I don't think that she's going to get an answer today. I think the parole hearing is going to hear her side, as it were, for to get a and then they'll hear the opposing side, people who don't want her to get parole, and then they will let her know their decision. But I don't this is what I think. I don't think she's going to get parole, and I don't think that she should get parole. I do not think that she is sorry for what she did. I think that she's only sorry that she got caught. I think that the tears that she sheds, I think probably 2% of them are for her boys, but I think that 2% is really still even more about her than it is about actually what she did and the loss of her children. I have nothing for Susan Smith. Nothing, nothing at all. Like nothing good anyway. So I guess I'll, because I really do want to, and I shared Melissa Jades. If you're curious about what I'm talking about, I did on my community tab last night because I actually apparently don't know how to work a calendar and don't know what the days are, what the current date is. So for whatever reason, I guess I wasn't paying attention when I shared it as if it was happening last night, but it was actually happening. The live that I like all the Wade, I'm interested in the Wade Wilson stuff, but the specific emails I want to hear about are tonight. And I shared that on my community tab. So if you're interested in that, then head on over there. The link is there. Also, and this too, she's nowhere near. Jennifer says she's been nowhere near a model prisoner. Exactly. She has had many sugar daddies simultaneously. There is a channel called Phone Calls from Prison. They've been uploading a lot, all of pretty much Wade Wilson's phone calls. However, they also have Susan Smith's. So, yeah. And she's just gross. Anywho, so I'm going to cover that. It'll be a late night stream, probably 10, you guys. So I don't know how many people are going to be up that late to join me, but I do want to talk about her parole hearing, and I'm interested in hearing it, but I also want to recap. I'm committed to recapping this case. I think this case is fascinating and sad and tragic. They all are. But this one is interesting because of the not guilty by reason of insanity defense, and there's just so many layers to this that I think it calls for a broader conversation in the way that the law deals with mental health. I'm still on the side of I do think that she had clear mental illness. I still haven't heard testimony that compels me to think that it was so great that she could not appreciate the wrongness of her actions and comport her behavior accordingly. And so I don't think that she, by the law, the way the law reads, I don't think that she qualifies for not guilty by reason of insanity. And that's how I feel today. Like I say every day, my opinion is subject to change. Also, just so you guys know, I am keeping an eye on the verdict watch in the trial itself. Now, yesterday they finished, and they finished with closing arguments, and the jurors were given their instructions, and they were then sent back to the jury room to deliberate. I believe that around 6:20, they had were dismissed for the day. Alice, please don't tear up the yoga mat. This is why we can't have nice things in this house. Anyway, so there's that. So we're going to go ahead without further ado. I'm keeping an eye on it. Don't you guys worry. Should there be a verdict reached while I'm live, I will absolutely stop what I'm doing and stream the verdict. Okay. So buckle up. We're going to have more Jason Spillers, everybody's favorite misogynist. All right. Can y'all hear this ridiculousness in the background? Alice. All right. Let's get started. I stopped it right where we ended, but I'll rewind 5 seconds or whatever so that we can, All right, let's start here.
Against drugs and alcohol or things like that?
Totally. I mean, she grew up, like I say, being, using drugs by her own accord, by her own account,
Okay.
From the time when she was 9, 10 years old, using cocaine every day. And she's very against drugs.
Did
Yes.
you have any knowledge during this period of time about her desire to try to utilize CBD?
Yes.
And what did you know about that?
So I found that out because she was looking for some kind of medical assistance. And Z was just not having her be on prescription medication.
Okay.
Because, and I agree with him in this regard that, that because she would come back from these episodes, it's not like she was like this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to have to stop you right there. Now, I'm telling y'all, I don't know. I know that when I gave my spiel this morning, I was underwater because I didn't check my mic settings. But let me just tell you, I woke up feeling some type of way. So I'm going to be extra spicy. I have no patience for this buffoon at all, okay? And I don't really give a rat's fat kneecap that you agree with him. I don't know what your education level is. I don't know what your background is. I feel like you're not qualified to make those type of decisions. I mean, yes, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but your opinion means less than nothing to me. Especially since you have all these ideas and you have very fixed opinions on women and their role in the world, and yet you can't even get these two chunks of hair back there to cooperate. So whatever, I feel like I don't even, you live in a van down by the river, bruh.
And this was a recently developing thing.
So when you say it's not like she was like this all the time, what in terms of...
She wasn't psychotic, losing her mind,
Well, in terms of quantifying how many episodes like that you saw or how often that would happen?
Right. Yeah. I wasn't around them all the time at that point, but I know that it really started to get bad in July.
Okay.
So by the time September came around, I saw her behaving erratically. She struck Z for one of the first times she had ever struck her husband when I was there in September. Mm-hmm. But Z's perspective was a more natural homeopathic type thing where he didn't want to institutionalize her, and he didn't want her to be on drugs. He wanted her to work through this and come to a healing on her own. And she was about that too, but she was also looking for, so they decided on CBD. Okay. They decided to try to use CBD, and Kawani had ordered some CBD offline.
She ordered it offline?
Yeah, she did.
Okay.
Yep.
And so you said that they were both kind of about not medicating traditionally, but that they had explored other options and arrived at CBD.
And arrived at CBD, that's right, to
Okay.
try to just give her some assistance.
Okay. And the CBD that she ordered offline, do you know anything about that?
I don't.
Okay.
I mean, I know she just ordered some CBD. She had been taking CBD, and that a package arrived.
From just like a traditional CBD?
Yeah, just something online that she
Okay.
ordered.
All right.
Yep.
And at any time, did you provide her with anything in that regard?
I did. I had some CBD that I bought from a woman in Asheville, North Carolina, that I had purchased because my dad's cousin had cancer. He was using a Rife machine, and he had become cancer-free by using the Rife machine, and he was interested in taking some CBD. And so I bought some CBD from a woman. I could tell you who it was if you want.
Was it a legitimate CBD manufacturer? Was it
Yeah.
some shady,
No,
back alley? What was it?
No, definitely not. This is a woman who worked in the hemp industry. This is a product that was being sold on store shelves that she had in abundance. And so I bought some of it from her, but this is like a legal product that I bought from her.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Okay, look here. I don't get offended that she asked that. Okay. You had some type of legal trust meeting in a air-reeking park. Okay. So I don't blame the DA over here for questioning your business practices. Okay.
in which state?
What's that?
What state?
In North Carolina.
In North Carolina. Okay.
Yes.
So it was a off-the-shelf, legally manufactured hemp.
That's what I was told by this woman who works in the hemp industry.
Okay.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
And so you said you bought that for your
I
uncle?
bought that from my dad's cousin.
Your dad's cousin.
It
Okay.
would be my cousin too. It's his first cousin, my dad's
right.
first cousin.
We don't
and
care about
so
your family
You
tree.
had some left over, or what was the situation?
No, I had some. I was taking some of it.
Okay, you took it.
Yeah, I did.
And what did you take it for?
I was taking it because I have shoulder injuries from jujitsu.
Okay.
And I was trying to, and I had quit smoking weed at that point, and I had been without, I have been clean and sober off drugs for a while. And and that was something that happened before I met Z. Like I quit smoking cigarettes and doing all kinds of things, but before I even met these people, like I said, that was another attraction, that we had, like a commonality that we had, that we were both.
I feel like Homeboy just started jujitsu because he watched Neo learn jujitsu in the Matrix. Like I just, honestly, I don't think he actually. Listen, if he, well, he's probably not smoking the Mota currently while he's taking the stand here because he's in the clink. But I do notice, I will say this situation occurring over in this vicinity is still giving me Melanie Gibb vibes. And I've been watching these two chunks to see if they start sticking out like hers did. Like divining rods. The hairs be letting you know. Evil lurks. All right, here we go.
Sober.
So the CBD that you purchased from the woman in the hemp industry that you subsequently gave to Kuwani was
Yeah.
CBD you had also personally used.
I had.
Okay.
Yeah, and I use it because I have a shoulder injury and a neck injury from jujitsu, and I was trying to alleviate some of my pain.
Had you taken CBD before?
Yes, I had.
And anything special about this particular CBD?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it's fairly non-invasive. It's CBD.
Okay.
know.
And what
Not
is it
the
about
right
CBD
word.
that sort of
Non-invasive.
comports with your views or beliefs about?
Well, I was just trying something. I was just trying to take it and just see if it offered me any relief, because I had become really opposed to cannabis marijuana at that point in my life, even though cannabis marijuana had been a part of my life for a while, but I had stopped using it and I completely turned against it, which I think is, I think it needs to be, I think there need to be stricter laws on marijuana, and it needs to go backwards on this whole legalization thing.
Let me just stop you right there. And let me just say for the record that I believe that I am not alone in this thought process, that Mary Jane and anybody that supports Mary Jane does not give a rat's fat kneecap about what you think the laws should be stricter and that you're now broken up with Mary Jane. Shut your clown ass up. But don't really, because I need to make fun of you today. So here we go.
For the jury that may not know, what's the difference between CBD and marijuana?
Okay, so the cannabis plant has, from my understanding of it, the cannabis plant has around 85 different cannabinoids found within it.
Look here, I'm going to tell y'all real simple, okay? This guy is worse giving Miss America answers than I am. CBD is just cannabis with no THC, okay? That's all.
It has no THC in it, which is the part of the cannabis that I'm gonna get you high, Craig. Okay, it's not deep.
And cannabis hemp is different from cannabis marijuana in that it's harvested for because it's abundant in CBD, and marijuana is like a hallucinogenic drug, which is heavy in THC. So this CBD that I gave to Z and Kawani, which I wouldn't have even suggested that, but they had already ordered CBD. You know, like they were already exploring this, and I was like, hey, I have this here. Would you like some of it? You know, and they talked about it, and they decided, yes, we will try this that you have. And so it was made from hemp, not marijuana. And it's like I say, it's a product that, you know, that you can buy on the shelf. I bought it from a woman who works in the legal hemp industry in North Carolina.
Okay.
You know, so.
All right, this is a good time for a lunch recess. So we're going
to
be in recess
Yeah,
for lunch.
let me skip
Until
ahead.
1 o'clock. Leave us your notepads. Don't talk to one another about the case or let anybody talk to you.
All right, Mr. Spillers, I want to ask you, we were talking about the CBD,
Okay.
and I want to go back to that. I'm handing you State's Exhibit 87. Do you recognize what
Oh,
I'm doing?
no.
Okay.
Hold on. Hold the phone. Back the milk truck up. We are down a layer. Mr. Spillers has removed his sweatshirt, and now we're just wearing the jumpsuit. Ugh.
Yeah, that's what I gave to them.
Okay. And is this truly and accurately reflected in the manner you gave it to Chloe
Yeah,
Driver?
it's in a very, very small glass jar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your Honor, I'm going to tender State's 87.
Oh, it was in a very small
Okay.
glass jar instead of a very small baggie.
All right.
Okay. Seems
All right.
legit.
And is this the CBD that we're referencing?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And was this the same sample of CBD that you had given to your
My dad's cousin.
dad's cousin
Yeah.
and that you had used yourself?
Yeah, it
Okay.
is.
And then you just gave the remainder to.
I just had some with me that I was taking for my
Okay.
shoulder issues, for my shoulder pain.
For
And
jiu-jitsu.
That's the jar that I had, that I was just using personally. I had purchased this a year before.
Okay.
And I still had some left over, and I just gave the rest of what I had to them after they considered it.
Now, look here, I'm not an expert on CBD or hemp or THC or any of it, right? I'm not an expert like that. But something tells me that I wouldn't take anything from this guy. First of all, he doesn't look trustworthy at all. He looks squirrely AF, shady AF, and unhygienic. I wouldn't take anything from this guy. I wouldn't even let this guy light a cigarette for me. Okay. Let me just be clear. Let alone some CBD that had been sitting around in his possession in a van down by the river for over a year. That does not seem safe at all.
Like, I offered it, and they considered it, and like the next day they were like, yeah, we'll try it, you know, because it was free.
Okay.
You know, instead of spending all their money, I just gave it to them.
All right. So
Oh,
she had ordered
you're a
CBD
charity
online, and
now.
then you offered this, and they talked about it and accepted it.
Yes.
Okay. In terms of administration of this, do you just eat it? How does that work?
Orally, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And were you a part of the discussions surrounding the CBD or the use of CBD?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I found out that they had come to these, that they had come to like an agreement. You
Yeah, he does. Kawhi says he looks like he sets up and runs carnival rides. Yeah. And then it's on the news at the 10 o'clock news that the ride broke down. Yeah. That's exactly what he looks like.
you know, about using CBD to try to help Kawani to find some, without using pharmaceuticals. It seemed like a much softer and more organic approach to some kind of chemical alleviation for her lapses in what we will call sanity, if you will.
Was she interested in that approach?
Yes, she was.
Do you have any knowledge about her ever being involuntarily forced to take CBD?
Definitely not.
Okay.
I mean, it was her who ordered it. I mean,
Okay.
she had to convince Z to let her do that.
She had to convince Z to let her take
Yeah,
Z.
because it's like, you know, he was trying to do this organically and like have her heal on her own.
Okay.
You know, because there was like I say, she kept coming back into real or whatever you want to call it, back into a place of mental clarity where she would apologize and not remember what she did, but
Look here, man. You drink urine, your own urine. Okay? Who are you to judge when anybody is coming in or out of mental clarity? Who?
he found it significant that she was, because she wasn't like, it's not like she was like she wasn't like clinical, you know, it's not like she was like that all the time. This was just like something that had developed. Then I say, like I said, because of her past and postpartum, and you know, who knows what else was contributing, you know, to like these eruptions, and he was trying to heal her organically. So yeah.
There you go. Bingo. Who knows what else was contributing to these? You're not a doctor, bruh. You're not a pharmacist. You're just some dude who tried jujitsu, got hurt. Now you're on the CBD, living in your van, out here trying to drinking urine, giving medical advice. Man.
Yeah, she had convinced him to allow her to use CBD, and he agreed.
Okay.
You know, as an alternative, as a more organic and softer alternative to pharmaceuticals.
Okay. And you just used the expression, she wasn't like that all the time.
I mean, where she was like losing. I was just trying to make a clear and distinct difference between the woman who was a loving mother and the woman who would violently attack her husband.
Okay.
And the other women.
When she was her normal self, that was
Yeah.
with Z for years.
Yes.
Have you ever described her as being a Spitfire?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was she strong-willed and spirited?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
And you said earlier that, you know, she asked you if you were an asshole who liked to eat animals. Was that?
Yeah, I mean, she's
demonstrative
kind of
her
snipey
personality?
sometimes, you know, but that's not like, she wasn't like aggressive or violent. She was just kind of like stern, I guess you could say, and like curt and to the point.
Okay.
You
Was
know.
she leader of the three?
Kawani, I feel like, but they were all like, you know, I feel like Kawani was like the more like the more of the leader, I guess you could say. But those other girls, they were very vocal. Like, I mean, there was like all this interaction between them. It's not like Kawani was like commanding authority, or you know, like, or that she was like in charge of the other women. Let's not put it like that. You know, like it's not like she was like the boss over them or anything. But it was very clear that she was like the more like headstrong and you know, like more iron-willed of the three, I guess you could say.
Did she like things her way?
I mean, doesn't everyone? You know, it's like no, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that Kawani was like that. Like she's like has to have it her way kind of girl.
Was she afraid to speak her mind?
Definitely not.
Okay.
I mean, that's like very much the opposite of that.
Okay. I want to talk to you about the traveling from North Carolina to Florida.
Sure.
And you indicated that there was an intention to.
We were moving. You're talking about December the 8th.
Yes.
Well,
but I
yeah.
want to talk about where you stopped.
I'm just going to say this, and I think I speak for the entire state of Florida. Whatever situation you have going on while you're in the clink currently and facing charges and whatnot, once that situation is done and over with, the entire state of Florida is closed to you. You're not welcome here. Okay? Thank you.
En route.
Totally.
Do you have any knowledge about going to Chloe Driver's parents' house?
We did go to Kawani's parents on the. It was the night before that.
December the 7th?
I'm pretty sure it was the 7th, or maybe it was the 6th. Like I say, these, you know, you're talking about like the differential between a day that I'm trying to remember. Was it the 6th or the 7th of 2020, 4 years ago? I can't remember.
Okay.
But it was not the 8th, because that's the day that we were traveling and Nimsy died.
And in terms of who was traveling and how many vehicles you had, what did that look like?
It was my van, and it was.
Of course
the
your
U-Haul,
van.
and
It's your
it was
house.
their SUV, I think.
Yeah, of course it was your van. That's like your house. That'd be like a turtle traveling without its shell.
My head is itching. Let's read it real quick. I
got
can't remember if it was
peel-holes?
their SUV or their car, but I was driving the U-Haul, and one of the girls, I think Shayla, was driving my van, and then Z was riding with Kawani and Nimsy in the SUV. I'm pretty sure. I can't remember that.
And what about Gami?
I think she was with one of the others.
Okay.
Like these are details that escape me.
Okay.
You know?
But there were multiple vehicles.
Yeah, I know that.
These are details that escape me. Like the details of the Good Samaritan who tried to intervene when you and Z were chasing Chloe down the road. Like those details escape you? Okay. Yeah. Bro, you got crazy eyes. I'm not even gonna lie.
My van was there.
Okay.
And I was driving the U-Haul.
Okay.
So, and then there was at least one more car. Maybe they had both cars. I can't remember this.
Okay. So 3 or 4 vehicles.
3 or
total?
4 vehicles, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know that Z and Kawani and Nimsi were all in one car?
Yes, they were.
Okay. And you drove the U-Haul by yourself?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did all of those vehicles go to Eric and Renee Driver's house on the way?
Yeah, they did, actually. We parked in the, they live in like a condo duplex type townhouse thing, and we drove the U-Haul up the hill to their house to load up all the Kawani stuff, and we left all the other cars in the visitor parking by the pool at the entrance.
Okay.
And Shaylee took a nap in my van
All right.
while they were there.
And what was the purpose for stopping at Eric and Renee Driver's house?
To get the rest of Kawani's stuff so they could move to Florida because they had found a place to live and be stationary and establish some kind of grounding, which she initiated this sequence, and we all supported that to try to help her find a place to heal where she could really like be still and, you know, not have to deal with like all the stressors from the outside world. The Sandra Torres thing was obviously hugely traumatic to everyone. And so she wanted to find a place to live, and they found a place in Florida.
All right, back the milk truck up or the van up or the U-Haul up. Either one, I don't care, all of them. How dare she want a stable environment for her child? You know, where she doesn't, where they're not moving around. It's hard. Raising a baby is difficult. Babies tend to like stability and a schedule. And this nomadic lifestyle isn't really conducive to that. So, I mean, what do you want me to say? What do you think? You should get some type of medal, or I wouldn't say a pat on the head because you were just itching, and which makes me think you've got piojos. So not finna pat you on your head. So I'm not even going to offer that, but I don't understand what you want. You know, like, congratulations. Bruh.
What stuff were you all retrieving from her parents' house?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I just pulled the U-Haul up and
Okay.
they loaded it up. I didn't even like,
Okay.
I have no idea. I would say like personal belongings, probably, like things that she needed.
And do you know if her
Clothes.
parents were there and they
They were
interacted
there.
with her?
They were there, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the first time that was another time when I met Eric Driver. He came outside and I saw Kyle.
Steph sells stuff by the seashore asks, do we know what he is incarcerated for? Let me get back to you on that, because it was put in the chat the night that I did this, the night that I recapped part 1, but I don't remember now what they said. So let me look it up. Give me just a second. And Avery says, wait, he looks like he has what, Jen? Piojos, bugs, lice. That's what he looks like he has, piojos.
Driver.
Who's Kyle?
Kyle's brother.
Her brother, okay. All right, and anything eventful happened while you were at the driver's?
Also, let me just mention this too. He talks about meeting these people like he's meeting a celeb. Like, yeah, I chilled with Snoop. What you mean? Of course I chilled with Snoop. Snoop's a great guy. Like, why would we be impressed that you met these people? It's ridiculous.
House?
Nope, it's pretty smooth. We just
How was
rolled up.
Kawani acting?
She was actually, you know, by this point she had become like her, even in her normal self, she was kind of like, you know, she's like really dealing with a lot of like mental health issues, you know, and it was really starting to like drive her down.
You described her earlier as like looking sad? Is
Sad.
that- okay.
Yeah, just like, you know, like really needing to get like that, like needing some kind of like something, you know, like the stable place in Florida where they could go, and, you know, and she was really looking forward to that, and everybody was, you know,
Okay.
like that was.
Do you know who made the decision to go to the driver's house to get Kawani's things? Was that something that she
Gosh, I
requested?
don't know.
You don't know? Okay, that's fine. How long were you all at the driver's residence?
Probably like an hour and a half or so.
Okay,
You know,
alright.
we just stopped in, picked up stuff. She had just been there after Thanksgiving, and then had come back to Z and her family, and with her sisters and her baby, and they had like, you know, things had like mended, and they were going to Florida, and Eric and Renee opened their house up, and Z was there talking to Eric. Like, it was just like, you know, this is all after that. You know, this was December the 6th, right before Nipsey died.
Okay, so December the 6th, in interactions between Z and Kawani and her parents and her brothers there, Did you observe anything that was abnormal?
Not at all.
Tension, conflict, anything like that?
Actually, not at all. Like,
Okay.
it was just smooth.
All right.
Like, Eric and Renee were, they were there. They're like, they opened their home. Z was talking to Eric. He went inside, gathered their stuff with Kawani, and loaded it into the U-Haul.
At that time, was Kawani excited about going to Florida?
They were all very, like, eager to get to Florida, or excited, I guess.
Okay.
As excited as a person who's like sad like that could be, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, they were.
right.
They were all like ready to get to Florida and be stable, and they wanted to have a garden. She was talking about having a garden, growing food, and doing, some self-healing meditations and being stable and being away from stressors of the world, like, they had found a spot in the country, that was kind of like away, where, she wouldn't have as many triggers to go into these.
Those were the things that she expressed she wanted?
Yeah,
A
totally.
garden and land and to
That's
be out
it.
in the country?
That's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Was Nimsy with her and Z in the group whenever they were there with
Yeah.
Eric and Renee Driver?
Yes, she was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you said you believe that was either the 6th or the 7th?
The 6th or the 7th, yes.
Okay. And then I want to talk about the 8th. You all
Yeah.
went to Jerry's. Did you know Jerry already?
Yeah, I know Jerry.
Okay.
I had been to Jerry's house a couple times before. I'd spoken to him on the phone. It's kind of like one of those situations with Z. Like, I met Jerry. Jerry's a really interesting guy. He's intelligent, and he does like a podcast talk show that's like really, it's like an interesting thing that he does. And so I had spoken to Jerry for hours on the phone. Like, I just called him up just to chat, like I do with people that I meet that I'm interested in. Kind of the same thing when I first met Z, just the same thing. Like, I met Jerry, I liked him, I still like Jerry, and I knew Jerry, yes.
Okay,
I was
alright.
just trying to give you just descriptive details into our,
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So you were familiar with his home. You come to Cherokee County with everybody we've already discussed, right?
yes, on
Okay.
the 8th.
On the
And I
8th.
had been there before several times.
Okay.
Yeah.
So any idea what time you arrived at the house?
Sometime in the afternoon, I'd say, like, gosh, I don't know what time that was. Like, what time was that? Maybe like noon or
Okay.
11? Gosh, like I say, these are, because we woken up early that morning and gone to the 12 tribes.
And what is the 12 tribes?
12 tribes is like a quasi-Jewish, quasi-Christian culture of individuals who, they have like a long-standing foundation of devotees, and they have like delis and stuff like that, and they have like a minha, where they sing and dance in the morning and stuff like that. And
So you all went there that morning?
we went there that morning.
Okay. And did Kuwani participate in that?
Well, we were all there. I mean, participate. We just sat there,
You said there was singing and dancing.
Yeah,
and
no,
stuff.
she wasn't doing that. Neither did we.
Okay.
But yeah,
What were you all doing?
just sitting there.
Okay. Were you
Yeah.
communicating?
We spoke to each other, or yeah, of course.
Okay.
I mean, but-
Anything about her behavior on that day at 12 tribes was she normal, Kuwani?
Yes, she was.
Okay. Was she in a bad mood, good spirits, just
It seemed like she was pretty normal. Like I say, she was pretty disheartened overall in general at that point, like pretty worn down and just tired of dealing with the mental illness that was plaguing her. I'll call it that.
Okay.
But during the 12 tribes, she was, just normal Kawani. She did have an episode, an outburst at Whole Foods later that day, where she would just have panic attacks and start screaming and, but
I would be remiss if I failed to mention my utter disappointment at the fact that he didn't sing and dance. I'm sure he's a fantastic singer and dancer. Let's keep going.
she was pretty much in the car while that was happening. I knew it was happening, but I didn't really see it.
Okay.
Like she had gotten like overstimulated on the road or something like that.
okay?
And some kind of trigger.
Were
something-
you interviewed by law enforcement in this case back in December?
Yeah, I was that day. That's the
Okay.
only
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
And is it fair to say that everybody kind of described her as acting like herself on the 8th?
For the most part, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that she was having like a little bit of a freak out,
Mm-hmm.
episode in the car. But that was it at Whole Foods.
When you say
Like,
freak out episode,
Yes.
in the context of what we've already discussed about her being a little bit of a spitfire and speaking her mind, when you say freak out episode,
I'm talking like on a whole other level but go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
is it something you observed? The
What do
freak
you-
out episode you're talking about, did you see that?
On the 8th?
Yes.
Actually, I knew it was happening. I knew that she was having a hard time.
Let me just stop you right there. This is a very, very simple question that requires a single word answer. Yes or no. You either saw it, firsthand or you didn't? How do you know it was happening?
Because Z was just like, Z got out of the car and he was like, you know, Kawani's like, need some space right now.
Okay.
But no, I didn't actually witness that.
Okay, so let's just talk about the stuff you actually saw.
Yeah,
There was
let's
an
do
incident
that.
with her in the car on that day where he said she needs some space.
Right, and so
Okay.
I just went into Whole Foods by myself, and
Okay.
I needed some food. So I went into Whole Foods, got some food, came back out, got in the car, and then we took back on the road to Jerry's.
Okay, and did he give her some space whenever he said she needs some space? Did everybody give her some space?
Oh no, I think he was
Jennifer.
like doing what he normally does and talking to her and trying to, you know, like guiding her back to, you know,
Calming her down?
trying to get her to come back to him, you know, in a place of,
Guiding,
like,
controlling,
normalcy, like, you know,
tomato,
wholeness.
tomato.
You don't know what that conflict was about? You didn't
No.
didn't see her?
No, I
Okay.
don't. But I mean, so I could only make assumptions.
Okay.
Right. We don't want
that.
you to make an
Um,
assumption for the
So
love
on
of
the
Pete.
8th, when you get to Jerry's house, you said it was around the noontime hour. There's at least 3 or 4 cars and the group of you. What happened when you got there? Where did all of the women go?
Okay, so everybody went into the house, except for me. I stayed out in my van and I took a nap.
Okay. And did you assist in moving any of the stuff out of the house?
No, I did not.
Okay. And at what point did you wake up from your nap?
I don't know what time that was.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Is there anything that awoke you?
Sometime, yeah, Z woke me.
Okay. And
Yeah.
tell me about that.
Well, I was sleeping in my van, and Z was like, "Hey, I got all this stuff," because I wanted to take a nap, and he was cool with that, and he was loading up all of his stuff, and he got all of his stuff loaded, and he said, "Hey, go ahead and wake up," and I woke up, and I got up, and I was standing in the driveway, and Jerry was in the garage.
So basically, what I'm hearing here is that if you were Z's quote unquote muscle enforcer, you weren't the muscle that day. You didn't want to be a helperty helperton and help your friend. Okay.
And Shaylee and Gamliana and I were all standing in the driveway.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what happened next?
I heard Z scream.
Okay. And
Like
what did
this.
you hear him scream?
No, just like this, like at the like this terrified, painful scream, like just like a scream. Like it was like shocking, you know, like Z doesn't really scream like that. That's the only time I've ever heard him express any sound that even closely resembled that. It was
Is
like,
he typically quiet?
No, he just doesn't, you know, I mean, the trauma, the pain, it was just a scream of utter, just so much pain was in his voice. And so I didn't even know what had happened. I had no idea what had happened. But I was outside and I told Gami, I was like, you need to call 911 right now. And so she started calling 911 and I ran inside the house. Shayla was already running back in the house and so did Jerry
Okay.
when we heard him scream like that.
You
But this is how I
previously-
remember. Maybe Jerry wasn't standing outside. I feel like these details are probably more or less irrelevant, but at one point Jerry was standing outside. I don't know if Jerry was still in the garage right there
Oh
at
my
the
God.
house when I heard Z scream,
Mm-hmm.
but Gami and I definitely were. And I told her to call the cops.
Okay.
To call 911 because something was definitely wrong. Like I had no idea what had happened, but it was a scream of pain and like something like bad, you know, like
You previously testified that you're not a call the cops kind of guy, and you're
So-
obviously sitting here wearing orange.
That's
so, tell me what about what you heard made your first instinct be call 911?
You know, I can't really remember. I don't remember. I just remember hearing the scream and perhaps like, I can't even remember what happened in between there. It's like, it's been so long. It's like, I don't know exactly what the sequence of events was, but something compelled me. I said, Gami, you need to call 911 right now. And she did.
Okay.
And I ran inside and then I ran upstairs because that's where the scream was coming from. And then I walked into this like really horrible thing.
Okay. What happened when you walked into the room?
I walked into the room and there was blood everywhere. And Z was, I'm gonna talk through this one. Z was trying to give Nimsy like mouth to mouth. Like she had obviously had some laceration wounds to her neck and there was like blood everywhere. And Kawani was laying on the ground and she had tried to kill herself by stabbing herself in the chest and in the throat. And she was bleeding profusely. And so I was just went into shock, basically. Like I have very little or no experience, especially with a child. Like, I mean, I witnessed a couple things, but not like this. And so Z's like giving his daughter mouth to mouth, trying to like breathe some life back into her, and she's like gurgling her last breath. And Kawani's laying on the floor, bleeding profusely.
Was Nimsy still alive when you went into the room?
She was on her way out.
Okay.
Let me just say this. To me, I'm sure he is telling truthfully what it is that he saw. What doesn't come across as genuine is the emotion, because it starts and then it abruptly stops. So I don't know. She looks vacant to me.
Like I mean, she was gurgling, but she wasn't moving, and she looked very not alive.
Okay. And tell me about your interaction with Kawani, sorry.
I went to the ground, and Z said, keep pressure on the wounds. And so I did. I went down and I kept pressure on the wounds, and I tried to just stop them from bleeding. I was using my sweatshirt and my hands to put pressure on the wound that was on her chest and on her neck until the paramedics got there.
Okay. And how was Kawani
God, I wonder
reacting
how.
to you? Was she
Hold
saying
on a
anything or
minute.
doing anything?
She was saying that she wanted to see.
I really wonder how many rounds of antibiotics Chloe had to have because of that. Just out of curiosity. I mean, he just does not look.
Nancy one more time, and she was actually trying to push me away. She was, you know what? Earlier I said there was only one time when I touched Chloe, but that was the second time when I was trying to save her life.
Okay, so Brad asks, just listening along, any chance Chloe is covering for Z? I listened to the whole trial. I haven't listened to the whole trial because I was listening at the beginning, and then I was like, I wanted to cover it. So then I started covering it, and I came into the covering of it late. And so I'm not quite there yet, but that is something that's been asked multiple times. And what that means to me is, it makes me feel like something has been said during this trial that makes people think that that's a possibility. And I'm very curious and interested in potentially getting to that part. So I don't know how I feel about that just yet.
I was holding pressure on the wound. She had blood all over her hands, and she was
Also,
pushing my
hi,
face
Brad.
away,
Welcome
telling me
in.
to stop, I'm supposed to die. And I wanted to see, and then she was like trying to lean up to see Nimsy one more time, but I held her down because I thought that, I just didn't want her to lose any more blood, because there was blood everywhere and all over me and all over our clothes and all over the floor and the bed. It was like a massacre. And I just wanted to try to save her life. So I held her down and kept pressure on the wounds for probably about 2 minutes because the paramedics came really fast.
Okay. So she told you to stop. She tried to push you away.
Yep.
She said, I'm supposed to die, and that she wanted to see Nimsy one last time.
Yes.
Is that what you recall?
Yes.
Okay. And you indicated that you were attempting to save her life, and that
Yeah.
was attempting to save Hannah's life.
Yeah, he was.
Did you care about Kawani and Hannah?
Of course.
Do you still care about them?
Yes.
Okay. And after this happened, did you maintain a relationship with Kawani?
Actually, yeah.
After she was arrested, did you all continue to communicate with her?
Yeah, she called from inside jail a lot.
Okay.
And we had a chance to speak a couple times. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And do you know for how long she maintained a relationship with you and Z and the other women after she was arrested for murdering Hannah?
Gosh, I can't remember. I have no idea.
Okay.
A while, more than a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were you a part of some of those phone conversations?
I was, yeah.
And what was the tone of those phone conversations?
Pretty, like, mellow, really. Like, just pretty, just, she's in jail, and we were talking to her and just reminding her that we love her, and that even though this was like a horrible thing, and we forgive her, and we know that that wasn't her that did that. And we still love her and care about her, and we forgive her for that, because we know she would never do that.
And did she continue to express love for all of you?
Yes, she did.
Okay. And have you maintained contact?
See, this is the part that makes no sense to me. Maybe it's because I'm not as enlightened as Boo Boo the Fool here, but I know that forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is for yourself. And I do believe in forgiveness. Okay. That's not what I'm saying here. But for me, forgiveness has a limit, meaning I can forgive I don't know how. I've never, and I hope I never have to find out, never been in a situation of where for something of this magnitude occurred, and then I have to move through it and learn to forgive. Okay. I want to make that very, very clear. I have no idea how I would react in this specific, if something like this happened to me, but I will tell you this. On my path to forgiveness of other people for, again, I cannot state this enough, significantly less serious, less egregious things that they've done to me, um, forgiveness that would not include ongoing communication for a year. That's just me. That's just how I feel. I don't, something is not all, we're not getting the full picture, and I understand that why we're not, okay, because that's really not how trials work. A trial is the state putting on the evidence they feel is most compelling. If they put on all the evidence that they had, trials would be months and months, depending even on the situation and the crime, potentially years long, right? So they can't put on every single thing, every bit of evidence they have, but there's something that exists in the dynamic between the people that are in this specific group that to me, it feels like there's a huge chunk missing. We're not getting all of
in
it.
contact with Z?
Yeah.
Okay. And have y'all discussed that, you still care about Kuwani and you don't want anything bad to happen to her?
That's right.
Okay. And have you discussed that it is your desire that she go to a mental hospital and not be in state custody?
I mean,
All right. Brad says some of her first words were, quote, "He didn't do it, I did," in reference to Z. Yes, I understand. Yeah, that has come up. And I need to, okay, so for me, and I think we're gonna get there today, as far as the recap goes, if I could just stop yakking so much. But I feel like I need to hear the full context of those words. I need to hear what it is that made her say that or write that, whichever it was. Like, I need to understand all of this. I need to see it for myself and see what the circumstances were surrounding that comment. Do you know what I mean? No. You are absolutely fine. Listen, I started streaming the trial when the defense was presenting their case. So this ain't this ain't like, I've been watching, we're talking about Game of Thrones, right? And you're coming in here giving spoilers. Like, no, don't worry about it. No, I'm curious about this kind of stuff. And I'm glad you're saying things because sometimes I forget things that make me, that I've seen or I've heard, and I want to make a mental note of it. And so you coming in here and asking these questions is good. Keep doing it. I like it. Don't you worry, Brad. You're doing just fine.
honestly, when it comes to that, I feel like my opinion is that this woman has suffered enough, with all of her, I can imagine having to deal with knowing that that you lost control of your own mind to the point where you killed your own daughter. Like, women don't kill their babies. Like, that's really rare, and when you do see it, it's usually a case of like, the child is unwanted. That's not what this was. This was not an unwanted child. This was some kind of deep thing being expressed through Kuwani that started, like I say, the trauma that fractured her, I think, began when she was a child. And Z did what he could to help her with that, and so did all of us, and it ended up being this really horrific thing. And I do think that basically, like, I know that, I just don't think that prison is the place for her. No, I don't.
Okay.
I think that I think that she's just gonna degrade, and these prisons are horrible,
Yeah. Whatever. I'm reading you guys' comments in the chat, and Jennifer, my heart goes to you. It's hard, and thank you for sharing that. It's hard to go through. Forgiveness is not a straight path, and but I do appreciate the fact that you feel comfortable enough here to share that, and that does, I appreciate that, and I am sorry that you went through that. It just goes to show you, like, we come across people all day, every day, right? And you never know what somebody is going through currently or has gone through, in their past. We're all, I think just part of being a human being in general. We all have been damaged in some way, shape, or form. Some of us to a larger extent than others. And, I just, yeah. I'm sorry you went through that, babe.
And they're just like,
Have you stated previously that you think she suffered enough and that you all believe she needs to be free in society?
I mean, that's a question mark. Like free in society, I think that she should be. I think that it should be acknowledged that in the term of what we're called, not guilty due to insanity. It's like you hear about people using this as a cop-out plea, and this is actually like one real one.
Okay. And we've discussed that you don't know what the law in Georgia is, right?
I don't. I mean, I'm not trying. I'm just trying to speak as as much familiarity with it as I have.
And my question is whether you have stated that you think she suffered enough. and
Right.
that
That's
she
a yes
should
or a no.
Okay, I think that she has suffered enough. Do I think that she needs to be immediately free? I don't know. Maybe. I think that she could be. I mean, I don't think that she's a harm to anyone. I don't think that she's a harm to society, and I don't think that she's a harm to herself. But maybe she is. Maybe she does need to be institutionalized. I think that should be determined by a professional.
When's
not
the
me.
last time you spoke to her?
Gosh, it was a while ago.
What's
Like,
a while?
couple years ago. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, time.
do I personally feel like?
Okay,
Kalani
I get it. Like, homeboy, time is relative, and if time was truly accurate, everybody's watch would read now. I get it.
Be
Whatever.
free? Yeah, but maybe not. But maybe I'm wrong. Like I say, I think that should be. I do personally feel that.
Okay.
And you have to understand, like I have zero toleration for abuse of children. I think that the laws aren't strict enough on those who abuse children and individuals. If it is so the case that Kawani was abused as a child, then her abusers should be brought to justice. And I don't think there should be a statute of limitations on that.
Did you ever tell Detective Cruz in the investigation of this case that woman chose to do what she did today? She took those actions, she made those choices?
I don't remember saying that, no.
You don't remember saying that?
No.
And the person that stabbed Nimsy to death, do you see her in this courtroom?
From what I understand, I didn't see her do it, but Kawani's sitting right here in this room.
Okay.
Yeah, that's her.
Over here?
Yep, that's her.
I don't have any other questions at this time.
All right, cross-examination.
All right, let's see what this guy's got.
Yeah, just making sure it's not a password I need to do.
See, this is, yes, Brad, I have to agree with this. So Brad says the fact the prosecution decided to call him to the stand and not Z is telling, in my opinion. That is a question that I have as well. Why wasn't he called? It doesn't, I'm very, very curious. And perhaps one of the reasons that he was not called is because as detestable as Jason Spillers is, maybe the prosecution feels that Z is even more detestable. And so for that reason alone, they didn't put him on the stand because it wouldn't look good in front of the jury. It would, no matter what it was that he had to say, he's so foul that the jury would just completely disregard his testimony, and it might actually be a negative. You know what I mean? I don't know. All right, let's see what the cross exam entails. Let's see how much longer he's on the stand for cross. Let's see. There's a break. Okay, not much longer. All right, here we go. Oh, wrong screen. And then Steph asks, but why wouldn't the defense call him? Again, see, the thing about it is, you got to, when you're putting on a case, you have to really weigh your options about the witnesses, and I have a feeling that Z would not be beneficial to either side, honestly. And so I think that's why they decided not to call him as a witness.
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Spillers. Nice.
Or another possibility is that Chloe herself said, please, I don't want him called as a witness. Don't bring him into this. I don't, maybe she's behind the reason that he wasn't called. It's interesting I would have thought that maybe briefly, and the thing is if the prosecution had called him to the stand, then the defense would be very limited in what they could cross-examine him on based on the questions that were asked on direct. So perhaps if they had kept it really short and sweet and asked the right questions, but maybe they were just afraid that they would open a door. I don't know. Hey, Joneson, what's up? Happy birthday. I wished you happy birthday on your actual birthday, but hold on a minute. Let me refresh this. If there is a verdict, they're not saying it's not on law and crime. Let me look in the chat. All right. Where do you see it, Avery? Because it's not on law and crime yet. Let me check Court TV. Un momentito, por favor. Let me see. Let me see. Oh, wait. Let me share the chat, this tab. Got it, you guys. Thank you for the heads up. Thank you so much. Thank you, Avery. Thank you, Chad. I appreciate that. This is a quick verdict. So let's see what it is. I agree, Joneson. Joneson says, I'm torn on this one. If a verdict is back already, that makes me nervous. Typically, the shorter time the jury deliberates, the better the chance is that they're going to come back finding the defendant guilty. In this case, what the deal is will she be found guilty of malice murder and felony murder, or because this is not like an actual innocence claim. Like, this is an affirmative defense. She's saying she committed this crime. The question is whether she committed this crime and belongs in prison, or whether she committed this crime and belongs in a mental institution. That's really what the deal is on this. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm torn on this one too, and that's why I wanted to really go through the testimony and really recap, because I listened completely to the testimony given by the third doctor yesterday, and it was that psychologist's opinion that she did suffer from mental illness. However, at the time that she committed the crime, while she may have had some delusions, her mental defect was not so great that she could not appreciate the wrongfulness of her actions and comport her behavior accordingly. And Yeah, I'm torn on this one as well. Right now, it may be after I get through recapping and going through the testimony that I will have a different opinion. Oh, Joneson says, Bindi, my mama said she was, my mama said, that's how I said it. That's not how you wrote it. That's how I said it. My mama said she was more sympathetic for Chloe up until she heard the phone calls with her mom. I haven't heard those yet. I'm still catching up. I will say that I watched her mother's testimony. I streamed it. And those phone calls show a different side to the relationship between Chloe and her mother. Yes. My mama said. Mm-hmm. Okay. Deet says, I'm still torn after hearing that call. I want to hear all the 600 plus calls with Z. Me too. I wonder what Georgia's policy is on that, because I would not mind requesting those. I would absolutely. My mama said, I would absolutely request those. Absolutely. I'm going to look into that. Deet says we'd have to figure out the inmates' accounts she used, though. Oh, you mean she made calls using another inmate's account. Interesting. Interesting.
Thank you. You can be seated. Mr. Foreman, has the jury reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor.
Is it signed and dated by you as foreman?
Yes, it is.
All right, if you could give the verdict form to the bailiff, I will inspect it before I ask you to publish it. You'll give that back to the foreman. Mr. Foreman.
Let me just say this. Deet says she used 6 different inmates' PIN numbers. Okay. It might not be as difficult as we think. I have an idea, but I want to hear this. So I don't want to keep you guys from hearing it.
If you will stand, Mr. Ivor and counsel, if you will stand, read the jury's verdict, please.
For each count below, we, the jury, find the defendant, count 1, malice murder, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, but mentally ill. Count 2, felony murder, aggravated assault, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, but mentally ill. Count 3, felony murder, cruelty to children in the first degree, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, but mentally ill. Count 4, aggravated assault, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, but mentally ill. Count 5, cruelty to children in the first degree, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, but mentally ill. So found this 20th day of November, 2024.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bailiff, if you will allow counsel to inspect the verdict form.
They found her not guilty by reason of insanity.
You may be seated, counsel. Anything else of these jurors? All right. Members of the jury, this case will be set for sentencing on another day. likely either to be December 12th or December 18th. I'm going to confirm that with counsel after we excuse you. You are welcome to attend the sentencing hearing if you would like to. You are welcome to contact the clerk's office to find out what the sentence is.
Oh, wait a minute.
after
Hold on.
sentencing, if
Let me
you
look
prefer
at
to
this.
do that.
What Brad is saying. Hold on.
Throughout this trial, I have cautioned you about not talking to others and not getting any media information about the case. You are now free from that. You may talk to one another or anybody else you'd like to about this case, but only if you would like to. You're not required to have any discussions with anybody, and that includes counsel or the media. And I want to say just a word. This is one of the first experiences that I have had with the televising of a trial.
Okay.
And what we know is that people, literally around the world have been watching us
I got it
and
now.
commenting on what
I got
has
it.
transpired. And those of us, who do this for a living, we expect that. We understand that there are going to be comments, and some of them favorable, but
All right. So let me explain, because I had to look it up because I wasn't sure. So in Georgia, a defendant can be found guilty but mentally ill if the jury or court finds that the defendant is guilty of a crime and was mentally ill at the time of the crime. This verdict is only available in felony cases. A guilty but mentally ill verdict means that the defendant will be punished for the crime, but will also receive treatment for their mental illness. The verdict is a compromise between a guilty verdict and an insanity defense and is intended to hold the defendant accountable for their actions while also recognizing their mental illness. Okay, so it's a compromise. It is not, neither the state nor the defense got exactly what they wanted. They got something in the middle.
and if you see comments to the contrary anywhere out there, know that everyone in this courtroom understands how hard you have worked and that we appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Yes, I believe that what will happen is she will have prison, but she will also, they will receive treatment. What that means, realistically versus what it looks like on paper, I'm not sure. I'm not really super familiar with the prison system in Georgia. So let's see what else is happening
All right,
here.
counsel.
Thank you, Brad.
Do you anticipate needing witnesses or, a lengthy sentencing hearing in this matter?
I don't think it will be lengthy, no, Your Honor. No, I don't think it'd be lengthy either. The only thing that I can potentially envision is if Ms. Renee Driver wanted to speak on behalf of her daughter, I would ask the court to maybe entertain the possibility of allowing her to do that via Zoom, which would be probably the only witness that we would have at that point in time.
Yeah, if they can't get up here, but we'll try to get them here, but if they can appear by Zoom if necessary, that'd be fine. Either of the 2 dates that the court suggested, I think probably are.
12 would be better.
12 is better. Truthfully says 12 is better for her, so it's fine by me.
I have no conflict on the 12th.
All right, this case will be set for scheduling on sentencing on December 12th at 9 o'clock. I'll certainly entertain a request to have witnesses appear by Zoom if that is necessary to accommodate the witness. Ms. Driver will remain in the custody of the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office. Anything else we need to take up today?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yes, thank you.
And there you have it, folks. Guilty but mentally ill. So it's a compromise, which I think, based on, just what listening to, or, reading what you guys are writing in the chat, especially people who have followed this trial all the way through, and are saying, that they're conflicted. So yeah, I think, I do think that is a good compromise. And one of the reasons why I wanted to cover this case in particular is because I do think a deeper conversation needs to be had about how we address mental health as it relates to crimes. I know that the justice system and the public at large feel oftentimes that a not guilty by reason of insanity plea is not taking accountability, making an excuse. It doesn't offer justice. And while I would say there are cases where that applies, for example, yes, Letitia Stout, I'm looking at you. You are a whole demon. Let's be clear. And you probably do have some level of mental illness, but your crime and your actions, in my opinion, were not the result of any mental illness. I just think you're an evil person. I think you're an absolute monster. So for her case, no, right? But there are cases like this case where you want to punish the person for the crime that they committed while still acknowledging that that they are mentally ill and they do need some type of intervention and help. And I think we need to do better as a country, just in general, about how we talk about deal with mental illness. I'm always of the opinion that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and that if we can intervene and early, and I think a lot of crimes could be prevented by having better access to mental health providers. I think that it's a very, 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 very complicated situation. It's yes, the verdict was read. Samaterna. The jury found her guilty but mentally ill on all counts. And so what will happen is they're going to do a sentencing. Her sentencing will be December 12th. So what happens is it's not complete. She was found guilty and she will go to prison, but she will also receive treatment. So there you go. That's what she will get. So yeah, I just think that there needs to be a conversation about it. And I do think that when it comes to the prison system as a whole in the United States, we need to decide if we're going to if prisons are going to be purely punitive, or if we're going to try to do some type of rehabilitation. because at this point, honestly, we're not really doing a good job on either front. You know, there's a lot of, there's the recidivism rate is extremely high in this country because we talk about reform, we talk about rehabilitation, but when you get down to the brass tacks of it inside of a prison, while it might say all the things on paper, that's not the reality of the situation. That's not actually what goes on in the prisons. And yeah, you know, I mean, we need to be having this conversation, and I nominate Dietz on the streets for that conversation because she does really good at having those lives and having those conversations. I can't stay serious long enough to do it. So yes, I nominate Dietz on the streets. So we have a second. We need a second. Come on, Joneson, help me out here if you're still in here. But yeah. All right. So let's get back to we haven't even got. Let's start with the cross-examination of Mr. Spillers and see what the defense has to ask him. All right. Here we go.
Nice to talk to you again. You and I first spoke, I think that was Friday or Saturday while you were at the jail by Zoom calls.
All right, fantastic. Roro seconds it. And as I'm the boss of this chat and this channel, motion carried. Dietz on the streets will hold the bigger, more important conversation. I'll be there. I'll participate. I'm just not good at hosting these. Conversation about mental health and the justice system. Motion carried. All right, here we go.
Is that correct?
Yeah, we sure did.
Other than that conversation, we've never talked before.
No, we have not.
You never reached out to us to try to speak to us in any way about this case.
Actually, I have.
Did you?
Yeah, I've called several times. I've called your office. I've left messages for you
Okay.
over the past few months.
Oh,
You were in custody?
Yeah, I was in custody.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Apologize if I didn't get those messages.
Okay.
evidently that's news to this to the attorney.
Yeah, I probably called you half a dozen times. I've left messages with your secretary. I was told that you were the person that I needed, the individual that I needed to talk to probably like 4 months ago. I've been locked up since July, and I have called you many times trying to get in touch with you to reach out and just let you know that I'm here to speak my perspective.
Okay. But before Saturday, or when we talked by Zoom
No,
at the jail,
this
we
is
had
the
never
first time we've
spoken
spoken.
before.
Yeah, that's right.
We had never talked at one point about what your anticipated testimony was going to be today.
Absolutely not. No, your questions for me on Saturday are mostly in the nature of my relationship with the group. We only talked for 30 minutes.
Right.
I mean, I've been on the stand now for 2.5 hours.
Yes, sir.
You know?
Yes,
So-
sir. And I am going to talk a little bit more about your relationship.
Oh,
with
hold
just
on
to
a
flesh
minute.
some of
Hold
that out.
on. Back the van down by the river up. Okay. All of a sudden, homeboy now understands the concept of time. Now he knows that he's been on the stand for 2.5 hours. All right.
Do it.
But I'm going to start with December the 8th. I know,
Okay.
I know that's a tough day for you. I've seen the emotion on your face about what happened that day.
I care deeply about Kawani
Yeah.
and that baby too.
Yeah.
That
I just want
baby.
to understand a couple of things. When you came into the room at first, Z was already in the room, right?
Yes, it was.
And when you came in, Z was attempting to resuscitate and deal with Hannah, correct?
Yes.
I would also like to take this opportunity to direct your attention to this area here. Okay. Like Melanie Gibb, as the testimony goes on and is full of more BS and lies, the hairs are starting to let you know. They're starting to stick out like divining rods. The hairs be letting you know evil lurks. All right, here we go.
When you first approached Kawani, I'm going to call her Kawani because that's what you call her. I'm
Sure.
going to try to keep that consistent. When you first approached her, was the knife still in her chest?
No.
Or was she holding that in her hand? Or
was on the
where
floor.
was the knife?
It was on the floor.
Okay, so the knife was already on the floor beside her.
Yeah.
you didn't do anything to touch or move that knife when you came into the room?
Nope.
Okay. And you said that she was saying that she wanted to see her baby. She was moving up to see Nimsy, correct?
Yes.
And she said to you, "I'm supposed to die. I'm supposed to die." That's what she was telling you.
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall when she was laying there on the floor, do you recall her reaching out to Nimsy with her right hand?
It's really hard to know. I don't. I remember her like pushing my face away, like she was trying to get me to stop. Like she like wanted me to stop trying to like put pressure on the wounds.
Was she also trying to get to the child, did you think?
No, I don't even think she could get up at that point. Like she said very clearly, I can't even see. Like she says, I can barely move, I can't see. I just want to see her one last time. And I told her she needed to be still because she's bleeding profusely and the EMS people need to get here.
Okay. I'm not going to make you watch the body cam videos.
Thank you for not making us watch the body cam videos. But Brad, thank you so much for this. Brad says, so much easier to listen to this bozo with your commentary. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, here we go.
From the officers that came into the scene. The jury's already seen those in this
Okay.
case. If I tell you that one of the prior officers in this case testified that Kawani was reaching out and holding Nimsy's hand, do you have any reason to dispute that could have happened that morning?
Well, it couldn't have been that she was touching her because there's too much distance between them.
Okay.
Like there was too much distance there.
Okay.
Like the baby was on the bed and Z was trying to like breathe into her because she was gurgling blood and there was blood everywhere.
But if an officer says that he saw that, you don't have any reason to dispute what that officer
I
was.
will dispute that.
Okay.
Oh, he will dispute that. Amongst his other credentials on his LinkedIn, now we need to add expert in spatial relations, right? He is downright disputing exactly what the officer said because there was not enough space. The distance was too great. Fantastic. All right, here we go.
100% dispute that.
Okay. Have you ever seen the body cam video in this case?
No, I haven't.
Okay. All right. Let me get you back to.
So you're saying, let's be clear one more time. You're
Oh
saying
my God.
that Kawani's body was touching Nimsy's body, and that you're saying that if an officer said that, would I dispute it?
I'm not asking you if their bodies were touching each other. I'm asking if you recall her reaching out and touching her with her arm, with her right hand.
Yes, that's what you're saying.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying, touching the baby with her hand.
Yeah.
No, that's impossible. There was too much distance between them.
Okay. All right.
There's no way that she could have been touching the baby.
Okay. Now, you did say in response to some questions there by Ms. Gropper that she was asking you about what you thought should happen to Kawani from this case.
Sure.
You understand that what your belief is about that doesn't truly mean a lot. The jury gets to decide that, correct?
Sure, but I mean, I feel like it's a fair question.
Sure. Because you
Yeah.
saw her consistently for about 5 or 6 months.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, it's an absolutely fair question, right? And I suppose I'm going to give his opinion on what should happen to Chloe the exact weight that it deserves, which is none.
And you have testified to us pretty extensively about a significant change in her mental state from when you first met her in April or May of 2020 until December of 2020, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Your testimony is, and I think I wrote this down right, you know that wasn't her that did that. You
Yeah.
know that wasn't Chloe Driver that did this, right?
Yes.
You know that because everything that you ever saw her do with that child was what you would expect for a loving mother, right? You know that because of what you saw in that child's eyes and face when that child saw her mother, right?
Yes.
You described her earlier in your testimony that the child was bright and full of life, right?
Yes.
And she got that personality, she got that as a reflection from the treatment she got from her
From
mother.
the love of her parents.
Yeah, Z too, right?
See, too.
But from her mother.
Yeah.
You said that her mother was particularly the one responsible for most of the day-to-day motherly things with the child, changing the diapers, right?
Yeah, I mean, Z changed some diapers too, obviously, but yeah, she was.
But she breastfed this child
Yes,
every
she
time,
did.
right? They did not believe in bottle feeding or
No,
formula.
she breastfed her child.
Right.
Yes, she did.
So she was up all night feeding the child when the child needed to be fed,
She was
right?
an excellent mother. I've already said that.
Yeah. So you know,
She loved her baby.
you know from being with her that, as you just said, there's no good reason why a mother would ever kill her child. You know in this case that there was no good reason why she would ever kill her child, right?
No.
Okay. So just taking you back to May when you first met her,
Yeah.
the first time that you saw and understood the dynamic of this group relationship that Z was in.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you had met him previously in Asheville, you talked about the trust and that you didn't really understand the group dynamic at that point in time.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. It was, that's kind of hard to, that's why I was so interested in their group and in their family. And so was Jennifer, this girl I was with at the time. And, it's, you can talk to someone, but you need to see that type of social interaction in person to gain
You'd
it.
never had an experience relationship-wise like that, right? You never had a polygamous plurality
No, I mean,
relationship.
I've had multiple women that I've balanced. I've done that my whole life, really. Had multiple girlfriends, if you will. But no, I had never taken the time to introduce them to each other and be like, hey, we're a family now. I'm going to actually be devoted to you as a husband and show you that level of commitment and care and love and appreciation and all these things. Even though I was never really I always showed those things to the women in my life, but never to the level of calling them my wife.
Right.
So like I say, when I heard that, I thought it was very interesting because it was kind of what I had always done anyway with plurality in women, but actually having the intimacy and the fulfillment of having a wife, which I had always had missing from my life and I really wanted. But I never wanted to just settle for one woman, and Z kind of seemed, it was just like, oh, it just like a light click on in my head. I was like, oh, so you have multiple wives. That's how you do that. Okay.
And like I said, you never had that relationship with multiple women in a wife type setting.
No,
right?
sir,
Right.
I have not.
So you were curious as to how that existed.
Yes, sir.
And whether or not these people all got along with each other.
Right.
Was the relationship built towards each other, whether infighting amongst some of them, right?
Yeah.
And when you first met them in May, you found that everything was, they all agreed. They got together. They got along.
They really
worked
did.
together, right?
Yeah, it was beautiful. I was inspired by it. And even when we left, I told Jennifer, I was like, I'm about to change my perspective on,
Let me show you. We're going to mark this as the.
Excuse me, counselor. Let me just interject here right quick. First of all, basically what he's trying to say is he has gone from a hoe to a husband. That's what he's trying to say. Running around, being with all kinds of different women, but now he wants it to be with multiple women, but can be committed to multiple women. Just from a purely scientific, realistic standpoint, I just don't see how that works. I really don't. I don't see how it works for really anybody in the relationship. The man too. I don't see how it works for him. I really don't see how it works for the women for sure. Nobody listen to Boo Boo the Fool here. Don't take anything he says seriously. Don't take a life advice from him. This is a man who is, who's made some wrong ass life choices, okay? And therefore should not be giving life advice, okay? If you're going to listen to anybody about life advice, listen to me, not Boo Boo the Fool here. Rachel Lee says, Jen Lou, I watched your Sarah Boone interrogation roast with True Psych Ward the other night. It's so good. The hair reminded me. They cut her off. Hold on. Let me find the rest of that comment. Let me see. I'm thinking that Rachel said probably reminded her of Melanie Gibb. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Joneson. Joneson, we have a second. Joneson says, no, Boo Boo the Fool is a not to be listened to. No, don't take advice from Boo Boo the Fool here. I wouldn't even really take advice from me, honestly. I mean, on some stuff, oh, that was it. Just my hair commentary. Okay, Rachel. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. The hair is, I notice these little details. Oh, let's see what he's going to show.
Defendant's Exhibit 1, Judge. This is a photograph, I believe, that was taken off of Kuani's phone by law enforcement. You see that photograph on your screen there, sir?
Yeah.
Do you recall an instance like that in May, June at
Aw,
the
I mean, that
beach?
was
Look
pretty
at
much
that
what they were like. Look at how
baby.
happy Kwani, you know, like look at her face, look at the baby, you know, like these are just like, they're just like happy people, like just living their lives.
Does that seem to be a fair and accurate reflection of things that you exhibited with them at that time in
Yes,
May?
sir.
Okay. And again, Judge, let me show you, we'll call this one Defendant's Exhibit 2, and I'm gonna see if I can
There's Kwani holding and feeding her baby on the beach, you know, like
zoom
look at
in
her
on that,
face,
make it a
like,
little bigger. Appears in that photograph, she's actually breastfeeding the child. Is that
Yeah.
clear?
yeah.
Same photograph, time frame, they're on the beach, obviously. Does that appear to be a representation of what they would have been like in May or June of
Yeah,
that year?
yeah. I mean, like I say, when I left, I told Jen, I'm like, I'm doing this now. I'm gonna have multiple wives one day. And she was like, I was like, so what do you think about that? And she's like, actually, she was like, okay. She was like, so I told her, I'm like, I'm gonna bring some other women into like this relationship because she was living with me at the time.
Look here, man. Look here. I'm sure, like in the abstract, this sounds like a fantastic life plan. But when you put it into reality and you start to work the plan, I can't even believe you got one chick to listen to you. In fact, I kind of find it like preposterous, and it makes you sound greedy. Like you bamboozled one chick, and not for long because she left. Now you think you finna bamboozle some more? Man, no, and no. It wouldn't be me.
Even though I told her, you know, and I was very clear about, you know, that it was more of like an open type of relationship, you know, that I was not like fully committed to her, that I wouldn't see other women, but she wasn't like fully committed to me either. It was more like an open relationship, kind of that we were both okay with that circumstance.
Yeah.
We did, even though we did live together.
Okay.
And I told her, I was like, man, we should move another girl in. And she's like, if it could work like that, then okay, you know. Like this is a woman who 24 hours before, she's like, I don't know about this. We have to go like see these people and see how this works. To, you know, we get down there and we see. She's like, okay.
That
She's like,
ultimately did not work out though with you and Jen.
no, it didn't.
Right.
You know, that's a whole different story. So,
Judge, I will move to tender Defendant's Exhibits 1 and 2 at this time.
I'm sure that is a whole different story.
but yeah, Jen said, you know, if it could be like that, if it could be the way that they are with each other, and they're not like jealous, fighting, bickering little women, you know, who have these, you know, like all of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like the things that you would expect, like the jealousy and fighting and bickering between women. It was not there.
Okay.
Oh my God, that's ridiculous. Yes. Again, for Jennifer says again, just to be clear, neither myself or Jen Lou are Jason's Jennifer. Hail to the no. To the no, no, no. Hail to the no. Listen, I think I can speak for every Jennifer on the planet except for his Jennifer for a brief period of time, who may have entertained Boo Boo the Fool here and this idea of maybe she thought, yes, let's bring in some additional backup so I don't have to deal with Boo Boo the Fool on my own. Maybe if I could, you know, if his baloney could be spread out over multiple people rather than me taking the brunt of his ramblings and nonsense and urine breath, maybe it would be easier on me. Maybe if the misery was evenly distributed amongst other people, this would be okay. But then she realized no. So I think it's safe to say that, no, 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 no.
And we stayed for a week and we saw them in and out. And you know, like when you're around somebody for a week straight, like we were really observant of them. So yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about how their family was just working in this beautiful kind of way.
All right. And then your next interaction with them together was roughly in September when you went to Connecticut.
Well, I saw them a couple times. Like I said, I've never seen them. I saw Z in Asheville. I met her for lunch at the 12 Tribes one time over the summer. I met Kwani and her parents at the river one day in June. Yeah.
But the next extended time that you spent with them was September up at
Let me stop right there. Let me just stop you right there. If I have learned anything in my time covering true crime and watching trials, it is that you absolutely 100% cannot trust somebody who swallows their own snot. Alex Murdaugh, I'm looking at you. He is a snot swallower, y'all. And if we had any doubt, if for just even a millisecond, we were leaning over towards maybe one little tiny iota of a sentence or a thought that this person has said we might agree with, no. The snot swallowing, no. That's an absolute deal breaker. Now you swallow urine and snot. Bruh, you're gross. You're dirty. You're nasty.
Z's parents' house.
Yeah, I need to use this real quick. My nose is stopped. Yes, the next time I was with them extensively was in September at Z's parents' house and Mike and Michelle Joyce's house in Bristol, Connecticut.
Also,
Michelle,
I still can't get over how he throws these people's names out like it means something. You know, like he's talking, like he's throwing these parents' names out like he spent the night at Snoop's or something. Like I don't understand it. It's very confusing to me.
You now,
I'm sorry. I'm going to object to publishing all the exhibits before they've been admitted. I don't know what else he intends to get into. The state's previously provided an exhaustive list of all of our exhibits, but I have no idea what he has on there.
it's just photographs of her and the child during the time frame that we're
We
talking
just
about.
review whatever he's seeking to admit before we publish it to the jury.
Right, Jones, and like they're besties. Like, look, bruh, let me tell you what had happened, okay? What had happened is you rolled up on these people's house at their actual house where they were staying at the river, their campsite, what have you, and they showed you some hospitality, probably because they didn't know what else to do. But I'll tell you right now, I have been, I wasn't born in the South, but I was raised in the South, and I do believe in hospitality, okay? And there is something to be said for Southern hospitality. But let me make this very clear. If you and your van rolled up anywhere where I was, the Southern hospitality would be out the window, out the door. I would act like Southern hospitality. Who? New phone. Who dis? No, I would not be extending no hospitality to you at all.
Just don't have them printed out. They're just
Ridiculous.
Oh, okay. No objection to those.
All right. You withdraw your objection?
I withdraw my objection if
All
they're the
right.
same ones during opening.
All right.
this photograph, Mr. Spillers, I believe, was taken in August, so maybe slightly before your visit with him in September. But does that seem to accurately reflect how you would have seen Kwani and Nimsy at that period of time?
Yes.
Okay. Judge, I'll mark that as this defendant's Exhibit 3, and we'll move to tend to that, I guess, as well.
No objection.
It's admitted.
Avery, hell no, I wouldn't take him some sweet tea. Let me tell you something. My very first job was working at Chick-fil-A, okay? And I know how to make sweet tea. Hell no, he would not get none of my delicious sweet tea. He wouldn't get nothing from me, nothing but attitudes and a hit-the-road jack. I would sing the entire song to him, the whole thing, all of it.
And then in September, when you were in Connecticut, you were there for about 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And I think you said that you stayed in your van for the most part, slept in your van while you were there?
Yeah.
Kwani, Z, Nimsy were in his parents' home?
Yeah.
Right? And at that point in time, his parents knew her, knew the other women that were involved, right? They were well aware of the relationship.
Homeboy out here sleeping in the van in the driveway like a shanty town. Just out here like, oh, this is... oh, the pause game, though. But Demon looks like it's trying to escape, bruh.
That he had.
Yes, they were.
Okay. Did he ever talk to you about a time in which he took Kwani back to his house in Connecticut before the child was born, when they first met, and he had her living in his parents' basement?
Yeah, I do remember him talking about that, like briefly. Like that's how they met or something like that. That's when they first met.
You recall him telling you that he kept her in the basement because he didn't want his parents to know about her at that time, and he
No.
took food down there to her?
Definitely not. And they definitely knew that she was there. That's ridiculous.
Okay, this would have been not September of 2020. I'm talking about before that.
Oh
when
yeah,
they
but I
first
mean,
met.
dude, Michelle Joyce is not the kind of lady who has somebody in her house and doesn't know about it. That's impossible.
Okay.
So like that's just not our thing.
Oh, let me say this. I was leaning towards believing what the attorney was saying, that he had snuck in his girlfriend Chloe to the basement and was keeping her secret down there because he didn't want his parents to know. But then he said, dude, that's just not how the Joyces operate. Oh, okay. I've completely changed my mind. That's it. You've convinced me. Look, I think that it probably is true. You can't trust a man who goes by 87 different names. Benjamin, Ben Michael, Z, Brian. You can't trust a man like that. You can't trust a snake. Of course he snuck her in. Whatever.
Like the idea that that they didn't know that he was keeping someone in her house. Like, yeah, right. Have you met her?
I have not.
Okay, well then you would know. Like, there's no way that's like.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, I never heard him talk about that. But that just strikes me as like, if you knew the Joyce family, like.
You don't think that would have happened?
I don't think that's possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in September, though, in Connecticut, your testimony is that you begin to see her, a change in her personality, a change in her.
Yeah, a radical
self.
change.
Yeah.
She struck Z when I was there, and that was just like so like, just out of character. Like
This is when these episodes were starting in which she would basically zone out or be in a catatonic type state.
Definitely.
Is that right?
Yes.
When she was in these states, she would come out of them and not have any recollection of what just happened. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Can I just take a moment here to point out that he is shocked, can't wrap his brain around the fact that Chloe maybe struck Z. Meanwhile, back in November, he broke a woman's whole occipital bone. But violence is shocking to you. Okay. Sure, Jan.
And I witnessed this many times.
Many
especially
times, okay.
because it developed even more when I, into October and through November, it was severe. I've never seen anything like it.
Was she telling you the type of things that she was hearing or seeing during these delusional spells? Would she tell you that she was hearing voices?
Well, not really like that. No, she was more expressing it as just like this like aggressive, manic like thing. She would talk about all kinds of stuff, but it was like really hard to and I was listening attentively and with care and respect for Kawani. She would talk about like gosh, I can't even remember these things specifically. Like she would talk about like evil in the world and which there is a lot of evil in the world.
Sure.
So it's not like everything that she said, but some of the things that she was saying were completely like.
But she was expressing to you that this was evil that she felt like was directed at her, right?
Definitely.
Not something that she was just talking about.
But just like an ambivalent force in the room as well, too.
Yeah.
Like not just like an indirect, like just the presence of evil.
Yeah, she sensed this.
Yes.
It's not like she was mad at the war in Israel or something. She was feeling a presence of a body or a presence of an entity that was coming towards her or directed towards her, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, she was.
This was so profound to you when you saw her in September and such a difference in how she was in May. You recall talking to Z about this and telling him that she needed to get some help?
Yeah, I did actually. I was like, dude, I don't know, but I mean, I was trying to say like maybe she should go to an institution or something like that. But at the same time, I've never been to one of these institutions.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, and Z has a lot of familiarity with these things.
You said you told us in your conversation
Hold on, I
with
forgot how to
Saturday,
take
your
it off.
sister has some relation to social work, right?
My sister
bad.
has her master's degree in social work and behavioral sciences, and she works as a counselor. And I have a very close relationship with my sister, so we talk about these things. And I pride myself in being an intellectual. And
Let me tell you something, Maine. People who say they pride themselves in being intellectual typically are not intellectual. Now you've used several big words, but what you've used them incorrectly. Okay. So it's one thing to be able to say big words, right? A parrot can repeat words. All right. It's another thing to be able to use words in their proper context. You, sir, don't. Okay. You out here like a whole parrot. Shush. Pride myself in being an intellectual.
Having the ability for divergent thinking and to, gain objective understanding for concepts rather quickly, So I've always excelled and been in the top of my class kind of guy.
Oh, fantastic. You and Sarah Boone, you excel at everything. You're at the top of your class, but can't answer a simple yes or no question with a simple yes or no answer. Okay.
So I speak with Chelsea. My sister's name is Chelsea. I speak with Chelsea, and I've spoken with her about these things, and we spoke a lot about Kawani when this was happening with her.
Oh, did you?
I'm not going to hold you to an expert in psychology by any means or psychiatric issues, but you believed, and I think you even told Detective Cruz this in your interview, that
Listen here, I will trust you to be an expert on what pee tastes like, and that's it.
you believe that, in fact, Kawani was suffering from specific disorders such as bipolar or schizophrenia, that type of thing, right?
Well, yeah, I do think that. I do think that some kind of individual could, but it's like these things came on very suddenly. So it's like I was telling the state earlier in my testimony, and that's why I didn't really push it too far when Z said that he didn't want her to be institutionalized, because this wasn't like how she was all the time. So so perhaps I'm incorrect, because to diagnose somebody with schizophrenia means that they have schizophrenia, not that they have schizophrenic-like episodes. Do you understand the differential here? It's like, that's how I'm viewing it now. And honestly, at that time, I had just witnessed Nimsy breathe her last breaths. And, I'm trying to save Kawani's life. So,
I think it's pretty, I don't think that it's that foreign or complicated of a concept to say that somebody has actual schizophrenia has been diagnosed as a schizophrenic, and that they have schizophrenic type episodes. I don't think that's such an abstract, hard concept to grasp. Boo-boo the foo.
It's like I don't even really remember that interview with Tiana Cruz myself. There was like a lot of trauma.
You were still in shock to some degree about what you just.
I'm still
gone through,
traumatized by this to this day.
Yeah.
This is like a huge thing.
I'm still traumatized by that
Z's
hater.
response to
Hey,
you reaching out to
Claus.
him about what you were saying and your concerns, he did not want her treated.
He didn't want to put her, well, his expressions were very clear. He didn't want to put her in an institution where she would get less care and less time and consideration than what she was getting from him and from her sisters.
He didn't want pharmaceuticals
And he
for
didn't
her.
want her to be.
Let me explain something to you. Since you pride yourself on being an intellectual. You know what the definition of insanity is, Jason? It's doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So if your friend Z, who's also a fellow intellectual, is continuing to try the same things over and over during these episodes, as you have called them, and they're not working, smart people know what they don't know. And so they seek outside help from other smart people. You big dummy.
Become some brain dead pharmaceutical girl, and
He didn't want that for Kawani, but he also didn't want that for Nimsy, right?
thank you. Yes, that's where I was going. She's breastfeeding this baby,
Yeah.
and he didn't want that, and he didn't want her to be institutionalized because she has this. He was trying to keep their family together, man. And I respected him for that, and I respected him for trying to do it organically and without drugs.
So let's talk a little bit about the CBD here. It's
Yeah,
the
let's
State's
stop.
Exhibit
Just
80.
stop right now. Just stop. Please stop throwing words around like respect. I have zero respect for a 38-year-old man who has anything in common with a 16-year-old girl, okay? And the fact that you have respect for a person like that, I have zero respect for you too, urine breath.
87. I think when you testified earlier, I thought you testified that you had bought that from a store, but maybe I misunderstood. You got it from a friend of yours.
I bought it from an individual, a woman who's in
A
her
woman.
50s, who works in the CBD industry.
Is her name Kylie Cross?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So this appears like in this jar, it appears to be something that was homemade or manufactured by someone and put in that substance. Is
So,
that fair?
I'll tell you what I was told.
Okay.
I was told that that was manufactured in a large quantity, and that it was processed in a legal type circumstance, and that it was legal to be sold in stores, but it was excess that she had access to.
Okay. But you don't, like, that's how you got it, right? In that jar.
That's exactly how I got
You
it.
were told what it was. You were told it was CBD.
Again, I need to remind everybody, just in case you're just joining us or you missed this part or you have, because he's said so many things, it's hard to keep all of the poppycock straight in your mind. But I would just like to remind everyone that this is a person who conducts law trust meetings in a park. Okay. So pardon me if I side eye your source from where you got this CBD, because it sounds like it was made in somebody's kitchen, not under any type of regulated circumstances. You know, kind of like pot brownies where, might have put a little extra in, you know, it's not an exact measurement. It's a more or less kind of eyeball it thing. Yeah.
But other than that, you have no reason to understand that it's CBD or anything else, correct?
I'm just going by what I was told, yes.
Okay. And you had used some of that yourself.
Yes, sir, I had.
And I think your testimony earlier was you didn't think that it had much of a effect on you.
It really didn't.
Using it for your shoulder, I think.
Yeah, I got a bad, I have a bad neck and a bad rib. I did jujitsu for years and years.
And it didn't really give you any relief.
It did in a way. It did a little bit, but I discontinued my use of CBD.
You didn't have any side effects from it, such as delusions or paranoia or concerns like that, right?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay. But you definitely saw what.
Well, he definitely is delusional, thinking that he can have more than one wife, thinking that he's slick enough to bamboozle multiple women into falling for this line of BS. But I don't think that has anything to do with CBD. So
you believe was an increase in paranoia and delusions from Kuwani that occurred at the time she was
Hold on, let
taking
me
this
look.
substance as
Pause.
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you believe that the CBD or whatever this stuff was causing her symptoms to get worse?
Not at first.
Let me put-
When she first started taking it, I gave it to him in September. And then that only progressed until, that was way later. And
I
she
can't
was the one
see
who was
it.
saying that. Because I don't
Email it to me,
her
Claus, would
delusions,
you?
It was it's hard for me to differentiate.
Can't see it on
Was
this.
this actually, but she was the one who started saying that.
She was telling you that she was having concerns that this substance was causing.
She was telling us, and then Z started to pull it back and stop giving it to her.
Okay. Ultimately, and you talked a little bit about this earlier, the nature of this relationship and the control, and I don't mean control in a necessarily a negative way, but the patriarchal structure of this family, right?
Yes, sir.
Ultimately, Z had the final decision about whatever was happening in this family, right?
I mean, yeah, for the most part, but these women were heard. It's not like these were not oppressed,
Sure. I mean,
silenced women, and by no means. In fact, very much the opposite. Like I say, he wakes up every day. It's like we want to talk. He wants them to talk. They were encouraged to speak. They're encouraged.
I'm gonna have to stop you right there. Okay. I don't think that you are in a position to tell who is oppressed and who is not. To me, being told that I need to talk and share all my feelings all the time would be oppressive. Okay. I think it is a relative term, and only the person who is potentially being oppressed can speak about the oppression, not you and not the oppressor. We're not finna take your word for it.
To speak their minds. They were encouraged to tell how they were feeling, so he could be a better man.
But if Z felt like the CBD was something he wanted to have her use, he would be the one to say, let's use that,
Well,
right?
he was vehemently opposed to it at first, but she talked him into it.
And he did agree to it.
And he
right?
finally agreed to
Okay.
it. Yeah.
But if he had not agreed to that, she would not have been able to use it.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the nature of a relationship, unless two people are in agreement. Yeah. I don't think that he would have, just like he didn't want her to use pharmaceuticals, Like I said, she's breastfeeding a child.
Did you ever tell him that he needed to stop giving her the CBD?
No, I did not.
Let me just say this. Speaking as somebody who's been in a committed relationship for almost 30 years, in April of 2025, it will be 30 years. Okay. I saw hang on, I'll put it in the chat, Claus. Give me just 1 second. Let me pontificate on this right quick. Okay. That is not the nature of relationships. In fact, the true nature of a successful relationship is you're able to, even when you don't agree on every single thing, you can still maintain, you can compromise. You still love the other person. You still care about the other person. Successful relationships does not mean that nothing is 50-50 is a ridiculous number. It's impossible to keep things even all the time. Inevitably, in a relationship, it's ebbs and flows. One person gives 51% while the other gives 49%, and that's common in a relationship. It is an unrealistic expectation for anybody to believe that everything can be fair all the time. The only thing fair in life is the weather. Life ain't fair, okay? And the true test of a relationship is in the moments when you don't agree, and yet you can still work together, sir. But again,
Never.
No, I didn't.
Now, again, this time frame of September when you're in Connecticut, October when you're in Virginia with them, despite the concerns you're seeing for her declining mental state, her treatment of Hannah was still 100% top-notch motherly treatment.
It really was.
Right?
Like, it really was. Yeah, I mean, there were a couple times where, she was so out of it and having like these like episodes of panic and discomfort and violent aggression, where, I felt like she wasn't her best self as far as like giving Hannah all of the attention that the child needed. But that was uncommon. That was only like a few times. Because, it's like when she's manic and like screaming and pulling her hair out, it's like there's a baby in the room. Like,
when she was in that state, she obviously couldn't be a good mother.
There were a couple times where
I
had to hold the baby because, she was like, Z was like, here, hold the baby, because Kawani's like becoming aggressive and violent and
bruh, I wouldn't let you hold a pet rock.
Screaming at the top of her lungs in public places and,
But nothing that she ever did during those times, nothing that happened while she was in those delusional states or those paranoia states, nothing she did was ever violent, aggressive, or harmful to Enzi.
No. Very much the opposite.
Okay.
Still.
All right. Now, when you were in North Carolina, this is, I guess, late October into November, when you got back to North Carolina where you live, right?
Yeah.
Candler. It's like a suburb of Asheville, is that right?
Yes.
Peggy, how far does Peggy live from you?
In Candler?
Yeah.
South Asheville, it's like 20 minutes.
Okay, but your house from Peggy's house is same distance, or
What do you mean?
where you live versus where Peggy lives? How far apart do y'all live?
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Peggy lives in South Asheville,
Okay.
off Overlook Road.
Okay.
I live in Candler, 41 Oakdale was my address.
You
Okay.
live in the
And
jail,
I
sir.
would say it'd take, 15, 20 minutes to get over to South Asheville.
So when y'all were in North Carolina, was the rest of the group primarily living at Peggy's apartment with her, or were they
Actually,
staying in both places?
Yeah, basically like both places, but I let my house out to them. I let them stay at my place.
Oh, so how you have a place and you're living in your van? Does that make good sense to anybody else? Because it doesn't make good sense to me. Thank you, Brad. Okay, so Brad says he has had cyber stalking charges and is currently facing 14 charges of communicating threats, as well as what he did to the lady who tried to help Chloe. Now, that part I know, that part has been resolved. It was just recently resolved, and he pled guilty. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
When we came back from Virginia Beach, they stayed at Peggy's for a little while and then
When you say stay at your place, do you mean stay in your van? Because what place do you have, bruh?
Z asked me and
You
we
out
stayed
here
there, and
living
then
in a
Dominique
whole
started
shanty
doing-
town
Dominique
in
started doing
somebody's
dark therapy there
driveway.
at my house. So at that point, they were staying at Peggy's, and that's where she was during the events that happened on November 25th.
Yeah.
And that's why she wasn't there, because she was doing a dark therapy, like I say, for her own pursuit of like, a higher vibrational frequency.
Huh?
We'll come back to that November 25th incident in just a minute.
Okay.
But at that point in time, they were staying at Peggy's house. Is that
Yes.
fair to say? Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about the group dynamic and some of the stuff that we're practicing. And you talked on this earlier. This was a patriarchal driven dynamic, right?
Right. Well, Z's like the center. Z's like the, he's the man of the house and
He calls himself a prophet, does he not?
a prophet.
Yeah.
I don't know that Z would use that word to describe himself.
You never heard him call himself a prophet?
I've never heard him call himself a prophet.
You never heard him call himself Prophet Elihu?
No.
No? If he told Detective Cruz that when he was giving her his name in an interview, would that surprise you?
Eliyahu?
Yeah.
Eliyahu's his given middle name. That means Elliot. That's a Hebrew name.
Okay. But if he called himself prophet, that would surprise you.
I mean, that kind of would surprise me that he would use that word.
Do you recall him talking about
Counselor, I'm telling you right now, you're treading in dangerous territory. You can't besmirch Z to Jason. We won't have it.
at times, Z or any of these women in the group?
Yeah.
Do you recall them talking about the CIA coming after them and out to get them?
Yeah, there was some talk about that.
Okay. Part of the idea of this trust system, as you talked about, was keeping your property away from the government.
Sure.
You have a, let's say, healthy distrust of the government. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
Sure.
You part of the trust idea is that it insulates your property and your income from taxes.
Yes, it does.
Right.
No, that's a fact.
And at the time that you were with this group from May to December, Z didn't have a job, did he?
No.
Nobody else in the family had a job, right? None of the wives had jobs.
No.
Kawani's
Do you have a
was
job?
being a mother to this child, right?
That's right.
Do you know what source of income they were living off of?
I know that all of their finances are private through their trust. I mean,
But you don't know how they got it.
I mean that's.
Do you know anything about him submitting loans to the government during COVID, PPP money?
Yeah, I do remember there being some talk about that, but
Which is always interesting to me because, we want to keep everything. Listen, people's beliefs about that is people's beliefs about that. Okay, whatever. I don't want to get into that part of it, but I'm talking about just this specific situation. You don't want the government to have their hands on anything of yours. You don't want the government dipping their hand in your pocket, but you don't mind dipping your hand in the government's pocket. Oh, okay.
Setting loans up in the name of a religious organization that they got money from?
okay.
I mean, are you aware of that?
I mean, I remember them doing that, yeah, but I mean, I didn't really know all the details about that.
You weren't in
but
on-
I
oh.
do remember that. Yeah, I do remember there being them using the trust.
You were in the dark. You weren't in the inner circle. And here you are. You've just been defending this man left and right, not letting his good name getting trashed on the streets. And he kept some things from you. Ooh.
What about also this belief in this group that there are only 168,000 souls that are alive in the world? You familiar with that?
Yeah, that's not unique to them.
Is that something that you hold as well?
Is my belief what's on debate here? How does this relate back to? I'm trying to understand
Just
where.
trying to understand the nature of this group
Okay, the nature of the group in relation to the death of the child, or
and the relation to what they believed.
okay, what does that have to do with the death of the child?
Mr. Spillers, I get to ask you questions about what I would like to ask you questions about, as long as they're generally relevant.
Okay,
I'm asking you
trying to
questions
understand how
about
this
the
is
nature of
generally.
this group.
Trying to understand how this is generally.
You don't have to understand how it's generally relevant, boo-boo the foo. Just answer it, okay? What's 168,000 souls on this earth? What are you, that's what he's asking you about. Either you know about it or you don't know about it.
Generally relevant.
I'm trying to understand why somebody believes that there's only 168,000 alive people in the world.
I personally believe that there's only 500 million bodies in this place, that the population records are all lies, and that there are much less people than there are now, and that there are only about 500 million people instead of 7 billion.
So
It's like when you go to New York City, and there's this is why I believe that. And so
here
when
we
you
go.
go to places like New York or San Francisco, or you go to any major city, really, all you have
Okay.
to do is count. So we're talking about a population demographic, and we're talking about you know, a specific number of people that they say, like they say there's 2.5 million people on Manhattan Island.
Mm-hmm.
So all you have to do is go and count the people. You know, all you have to do is drive by and look at the traffic. All you have to do is like do some mathematical equations, which would really lead you to believe that there are significantly less people than what they say.
Chloe, listen, I don't blame you. I would be putting my hand in my head right about now too if I was you. Okay, all you have to do is count the people, which, you know, generally speaking, that would be accurate. If you want to know the population of an area, the way that you would ascertain that number would be to count the people. Okay, but you cannot physically just drive to Manhattan and the only people that you count are the people that are visible. Surely that is not that hard of, that's just math. Okay? What you could if all you did was drive to Manhattan, right? And you counted the people that were visible, all you could ascertain from that number is this is the amount of people that were visible to me in Manhattan on this day at this time. That doesn't mean that you have the total number of people that are in Manhattan. You need to stop, bruh.
Well,
So
let me put
what
it
does that
to
have
you.
to do with Nipsey?
It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with Nipsey, sir, but I'm going to ask you questions about it for a reason.
Okay.
Let me put it to you this way. You're from the South. You grew up in North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Born and raised there. You're familiar with the idea of college football, right?
Sure.
This weekend, there's going to be a football game between the University of Tennessee and the University of Georgia in Athens, and there's going to be about 96,000 people that fill a stadium. Do you not believe there's 96,000 people that are going to be sitting in that stadium watching a football game?
I mean, if you see them, then they're there. That doesn't mean that there's 7 billion people in the world. The population.
Move on from
charts
this counselor.
and the,
This guy, yeah.
demographics and the census records, I think, are a lie, much like a lot of other things. You know, there's a lot.
So you think what you're saying is that the census numbers are padded, that if the census came over to my house at this time and I reported to the census worker that there were 3 people in this house, that the census worker would not notate 3 people at this address. What they would notate is 5 people at this address, 6 people at this address. Is that what you're trying to say? That it's all a lie? It's all a big fat lie? Okay.
A lot of lies in the government, sir. So, yeah, I mean, how much of these lies would you like to expose here in this room? You know, how much fact-based information are we going to discuss?
Well, let's talk a little bit more about some of that in a second. When we get to this idea about the polygamy relationships that he had with these 3 women, there was a 4th wife that he had previously. Is that right?
Yes.
You're aware of her named Gabriella Kuykendall?
Yes.
You ever met Gabriella Kuykendall?
No. I haven't.
Were you aware that when she had a child with Mr.
I don't object to anything involving this second off. Relevant.
Relevant says your objection. You want to respond?
I think it's relevant, Judge. He talked earlier about the fact that Z had 4 wives, and we're talking about 3 wives here. And I think it's relevant to his understanding of how this group dynamic works.
He's already testified he never met her.
I'm not asking him about
All right,
it.
overrule the objection.
You're aware of who Gabriella Kuykendall is, right?
Yes.
You're aware that she had a child with Z, right?
Yes.
You're aware that she left him in the middle of the night with the child and basically ran away from him, right?
Okay.
Matter of fact, it took place at the same house where this incident happened on December 8th of 2020. Did you know that?
No.
It happened at Jerry's house.
Okay.
Yes, I don't know what is the deal with Jerry's house and why all of the significant and important events that occurred in this group occur at Jerry's house, but they do. That is true.
Part of what Z was trying to do with this group was to grow this group, right? He was constantly looking for other women to bring into his group here, right?
Are we not all constantly seeking the companionship of compatible individuals?
I'm
No.
asking about Z right now.
Okay.
Wasn't he always trying to talk to other women about?
I can tell you right now, I'm not constantly seeking out compatible individuals. I'll tell you that right now. I barely like people.
Bringing them into the group as well?
I mean, sure. Yeah.
Part of what he ultimately wanted to do was to have multiple children with multiple wives as well. Is that right?
That's what I want to.
Okay. He, in fact, right now, Anna
Yeah, there's
just had a
there's a
child.
beautiful baby in this world that Kami just birthed. Yes, she did.
And Shaylee is pregnant today, right?
Shaylee's about to have one too. Yep.
His mentality is to grow his religious following, right?
You just used the word religion, which I feel like is inappropriate.
Okay, his mentality is to grow his following.
His mentality is to find like-minded individuals to participate with each other, as is mine,
But
and that's what it's.
Sir, I gotta say, I think your urine is tainted, and it has caused you to not be able to think rationally. Your logic is so circular that
Access to each other.
But Mr. Spillers, he and you don't look for like-minded individuals. You and he look for strays, like castaway dogs on the side of the road. Isn't that true?
That's really ridiculous.
Isn't that not what you told him in a phone call with him at the jail just a few days ago?
Is it?
I'm asking you.
I don't know. I mean,
You and he have not talked about treating these women like strays? Finding these women that you can bring into your group and treat them like strays? That's not a comment that you made on a phone call?
I don't know. Maybe, and maybe it was made in sarcasm. You know,
Maybe
like,
it was.
Like, I don't know. I don't remember every single word of every single thing that I've said. But no, I've never treated women in my life like that.
Well, you
I've never
definitely treat them as submissive individuals, right?
No, I treat them as.
Women are subservient to you, right?
He can explain his answer.
So yeah. So what's your question again?
I said at first that you treat them as submissive individuals.
No, I don't.
They're subservient to you, though, right?
I think that women should be in a place that is servant. Yeah, sure.
In servitude of the man.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
100%.
Meaning that Benjamin or Z or Brian Joyce, whoever he is, he controls what they do.
No.
And if they
I
don't
mean,
do
there's
what he wants, they can get out, right?
Of course.
Right? He controls what they wear, right?
So you're asking.
Yes or no?
You're asking me.
Yes or no
I don't
first?
know the answer to this question.
He controls what they eat, right?
We have already discussed that there is a standard, and this is the same thing that it is with me and women that I've had in my life since then. Since I've had in my entire life. When I
look at here, bruh. Let me just explain something to you really quickly. Okay. You can do the same thing over and over and over and over and over for years, decades, right? Doesn't make what you're doing correct, doesn't make it right. Okay? You can be living the same life on the day-to-day in the same way over and over and over and over and over. Okay? It doesn't make it right. Just means you've been living wrong for 37 years or however how old you are at this point. I can't tell how old you are at this point. To me, you look like you about into your 50s, although I suspect your actual age is younger than that.
I've been a vegetarian, women who come into my life they're vegetarian, or you cannot be together.
Right.
Yeah. So you're manipulating this into a control thing when it's just a standard that's set that can be avoided at any time.
If Kawani wanted to go have a hamburger at
Trisha.
Wendy's, he'd kick her out of the car, right?
That's really a petty and childish way to describe something, and I mean your rhetoric is utterly offensive. But no, I mean, why would she want to have what would motivate her to eat an animal? She's the one who's telling me.
Maybe she really didn't believe in all that.
Because sometimes a bitch just wants a burger. That's why.
Maybe. I mean, why not?
You testified earlier that she didn't really get to talk to her.
Now, Brad, I ain't age shaming at all because I am 47 years old, okay? And I am not age shaming. But homeboy over here, if this is the picture of quote unquote health that you get from being a vegetarian, urine drinking human, I want no parts of it. He don't look healthy at all. I'm not finna age shame. I'm old myself.
Her parents much, right?
Well, she was raped by her parents when she was younger and abused by them, according to her.
My stars.
My question, sir, is she didn't talk to her parents much, right?
She did from time to time.
Are you aware there were times where Z would take her phone from her and she wouldn't have access to her phone to make calls to people?
Not when I was around.
Never saw that.
Never. I never saw him limit them like that. I mean, Shaylee, like they still do things, independently. Like
We're
if you
not
wanna use
talking
that
about the
word.
two
His
other.
control extended to you too, right?
Back the milk truck up. We ain't talking about the other two wives. We're talking about what he did with Chloe. Can't you answer a question? Lord. I just had a really horrible thought. Just looking at his overall and general appearance, I bet he has a dirty belly button.
He told you
Filthy.
you could never touch her.
Yeah, that's a very common Orthodox thing that men do not touch each other's wives, and I respect that.
Well, I'm not suggesting that men should touch each other's wives in any other sexual way. I'm just, a handshake. You couldn't even give her a handshake.
Why would I want to? Why would I want to touch another man's wife?
You started drinking urine because of him.
I started drinking urine because Peggy Schindler told me about it, and I did my research online and did some self-edification. Perhaps you should do the same.
But Peggy Schindler, I'm not drinking my urine, sir. Peggy Schindler got that information from him, right?
Did she? I don't know.
I'm asking you.
Told me about it. I don't know.
She knew him.
Yeah, I mean, so what? So there's millions of people who drink their urine. There's forums online with, tons of individuals, and this has become way more mainstream. And now there's all kinds, like I say, I mentioned.
There's millions of people who do things all the time, every day that ain't good for them. You need to stop. Just because a bunch of people see, this is what is interesting to me, that you are trying to identify as super individualistic, that you are a unique individual, wholly unto yourself, right? And that there ain't nobody else like you on the planet, and you pride yourself in being an individual and a free thinker. But if somebody suggests something to you, you then follow their ideas. So which one are you? Are you an individual, or are you part of the herd, sir?
And Troy Casey, and I'd like to drop his name again because he's a really prominent influencer online. And so
An influencer.
I heard about urine therapy from Peggy. I immediately did my research about it, and I've heard about people, surviving on their urine. So I knew that it wasn't going to kill me, so I tried it. And then
And you said you do it daily.
I did.
You still maintain contact with Z?
Sure do.
Day-to-day contact?
Sure do.
You've called him probably 10 times since you've been in the jail here in Cherokee County, right?
Sure have.
You've talked to him, I guess, beginning in August or September, even through today, about the mental state that you saw
Pause.
from
Let me look,
Kwani
babe.
at that time.
Totally.
And your belief is, and you continue to tell him that your belief is that she was insane. I'm not making it to a legal standard of that, but you felt like she was insane.
I mean, yes, I do. I mean, call it insane, call it whatever you want. It's this woman was outside of her ability to discern what was even happening, and her behavior was erratic and out of character, and she would go in and out of these phases, and I would qualify that as insane from my perspective. I've never seen anything so severe in my life.
Okay. Now, let me back you up to this incident in November in Nashville with Miss Sandra Torres.
Hang on a minute.
And I know your testimony from what you told Miss Gropper is.
Okay, so Claus, I did get it. Oh, it's a beautiful picture. It's a picture of Quentin, you guys. I couldn't see it. And the caption is, "In memory of the lives cut short, we strive to be their voice for justice." Oh, I love that. That is amazing, Claus. I love that. Thank you for sending that to me, babe. I love it. Look at Quentin in his little snow PJs. Oh.
Is that you believe Miss Torres was the instigator of an aggressive, violent act here, right?
Most definitely.
Okay. You did acknowledge that you were the one that got arrested
Yeah,
based on that incident, right?
Yeah, she was the one who called the cops.
Thank you, Vanessa.
And you left, right?
Hang
before
on
the cops
just a
got there.
second.
Yeah, before I
Let me stop this. Thanks, Vanessa, for letting us for joining us. Vanessa says Chloe was found guilty and mentally ill. We watched the verdict, babe, but thank you. I hope you'll stick around for the recap, just because I'm in here clowning on Jason here. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in.
got shot by a woman who was threatening me with gun violence.
You could have stuck around and talked to the cops about that, though, right?
So you're saying that I should have put myself in harm's way?
Well, I don't know. Maybe you drove a mile up the road and called the cops yourself. You didn't do that either, did you?
No, I didn't.
No, what you did was if somebody was threatening you, right, and they were physically violent with Peggy, right, what you did was you fled the scene of a crime, because assault is a crime. Dum-dum.
You left. Before you left, Z had put Chloe in the car with the baby and took off right?
Kwan got in the car by her own free will, and it was actually her that insinuated that they needed to leave.
All right. So Vanessa says, what does this mean for her sentence? So as I understand it, Vanessa, it means it's a compromise. So she was found guilty, but the jury recognizes that she's mentally ill. So she she will go to prison, but will receive help while she's in prison. That is the way that I understand it, babe. All right, here we go.
Okay,
Like I said earlier, because she could see the...
But, sir, Ms. Torres called the police because she believed there was an issue going on there, right?
Ms. Torres called the police because, I mean, I don't know why she did. I mean...
She didn't have anything to do with you all.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I'm saying. That's why it's so bizarre that someone would go so far out of the way, especially, like I say, when I was carrying Kawani across the road, one of the individuals who lived in the apartment complex was walked out, and she walked by us and asked if we needed any help. And I said, no, we don't.
So maybe that lady just didn't want to involve herself with what was going on with you, right?
Or maybe that's probably what a normal person would do if they, saw some woman having a panic attack and all of the individuals around her trying to help.
Well, calling the police is not necessarily calling to get somebody in trouble. As you know, sir, you called the police yourself on December 8th because you knew there was a problem.
That's more like emergency medical.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but wouldn't a panic attack that is... Let me just entertain, clown ass for just a minute. Let's say I believe completely in your assessment of the situation of those events in November, right? What you're saying is that Chloe she wasn't fleeing from y'all, okay, out of fear. What it was is she was having a panic attack, and that panic attack was so severe that she fled the apartment and ran into traffic, therefore putting herself in danger and others in danger. This is what you testified to. Those were your words. And you don't think that that is an emergency situation or a situation that might need medical intervention? Man.
But that's what calling 911 does. It gets law enforcement, it gets medical personnel, it gets EMS people out there to determine what the issue is, right? Mm-hmm. And if they believe that Kuani was having a medical emergency that needed to get attention, they could take her to the hospital. They could take her to see a doctor, right?
Sure.
You didn't want that to happen.
I don't think that my desire has any reflection on the...
Z didn't want that to happen. He
Yeah.
he was the one directing that they get Chloe in the car and get out of there, right?
Actually, like I said, it was Kawani that initiated the sequence for them.
She was telling Miss Torres to call the police.
No,
She was telling Miss Torres to call her parents.
She was telling Miss Torres that she needed to call her parents. And then Miss Torres began behaving erratically, like I said, and began behaving belligerently and aggressively and threatening us.
When you
And
left-
So then Kawani said that, she initiated the sequence for them to leave. She could see that this woman was like this drunken, you could smell the alcohol on her, that she was just this, drunken individual who wanted to involve herself and make probably.
All right, but okay. Jennifer says, Jen Lou, if you believe in his assessment of anything, I am scheduling an intervention for you. We can't lose you. I like to play devil's advocate every so often. And even if I did believe his assessment of the situation, which I don't, if I'm going by his logic, which is actually not logical at all, but just for entertainment purposes, okay, yeah, okay, let's say all of those things did happen, okay, in the way that he described them. Then an outsider witnessing this panic attack would more than likely think, hey, this girl needs some type of medical intervention, and therefore would not be going out of her way and not be sticking her nose in where it didn't belong. It's actually a good Samaritan, and it's what we call in the business, see something, say something. So either way, even if I followed his BS logic, he's still wrong in his assessment and his assessment of Miss Torres. Period. The end.
So bored with her own life or whatever that she wanted to cause drama and involve herself in somebody else's business that had nothing to do with her.
You believe that Miss Torres involved herself in someone else's situation so
Yes.
she could get attacked by you and receive a broken eye socket?
Yeah.
Sir, this is a picture that's dated November 25th of 2020.
Okay.
That's a picture that Ms. Torres sent to us. That
Okay.
she took of herself that day.
Continue to object to
I'm-
publishing evidence that has not been admitted.
I'm not admitting it yet,
It's
Judge.
being published to the jury, it's not been identified with an exhibit number, it's not been admitted.
Sustain the objection.
So I just told you the story of what happened. And,
Your
you know, that was
story
never
is
brought to trial.
lies.
So your assumption,
Yeah, it was never brought to trial, sir, because you pled guilty to that.
I was never brought to trial because they would never give me a trial. I
No.
sat,
Okay, do you understand? Okay, listen, I know that you're the expert on all the things, all the time, everywhere. Okay, nobody gets a trial immediately. Did you happen to, I don't know, waive your right to a speedy trial? Sounds like you did. In that case, the state is under no obligation to prosecute you or bring you to trial immediately. If you wanted a trial and you wanted it fast, then you shouldn't have waived your right to a speedy trial. Bruh. How about that?
yeah, that's very much what happened. I mean, you can make assumptions and,
Sir, I'm not making assumptions.
you
You
are
know
making
how
I've
the
seen the
system
documentation
works.
of your sentence that you received for that case out of North Carolina.
Yeah, I know.
It
Like I
says you
said.
pled guilty to assaulting and inflicting serious injury as a misdemeanor on Mrs. Torres.
Pursuant to Alfred law.
No, it actually doesn't say pursuant to Alfred law. That box isn't checked at all.
Uh-oh.
It says you pled guilty.
Then that's misinformation. You could pull up the court records.
That's who I got it from.
That is the court record, you dolt. That is the court record. And
Well, then you should pull up the court records from August 29th, 2023.
That's
And
the date that you pled guilty.
Yeah, I mean, it says, the judge said very clearly before the court that it was pursuant to Alfred law.
It's
So
not an
perhaps you have
Alfred
some
law.
kind of-
So you're saying
it's not okay. It's called an Alford plea because it is Alford versus, and I can't even remember the state right now. Okay, case law is what you're talking about. It's not a law like the way that you're using it. Okay, but what an Alford plea is, you big dummy, is you're maintaining your innocence, but you're acknowledging that the state has enough evidence to convict you if it were to go to trial. That's what it means. That's why I was so irritated with the whole situation with the West Memphis 3, because that's what an Alford plea is.
there's a mistake in the document.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
From
You
what I was-
understand an offered plea is still a plea of guilty though, right?
Yeah, but the reason why I pled guilty is because
Oh,
they
let's hear it.
were actually, so they didn't give me they were refusing to give me bond dates. They were refusing to give me court dates. They were refusing to give me a trial.
They refused to give you those things because you had violated your bond before, is that right?
Yeah, I was
Oh,
actually framed
dear.
by the, and false
Framed.
evidence was submitted against me by Buncombe County.
Really?
Absolutely.
Oh
Have you
my.
initiated a civil lawsuit against them for them?
Not yet, but I have spoken with some civil rights attorneys, and I have not initiated that sequence yet, but I have spoken with several attorneys.
And sir, you're currently incarcerated by the federal government, right?
Yes, I am.
For threatening a man online, right?
That's an allegation, which
Yeah, I understand it's an allegation, and you haven't been convicted of anything, and you stand absolutely innocent until proven guilty.
then I think that we should, not talk about that.
I'm not going to talk to you about it. I'm not going to ask you what you did. I'm not going to ask you who it is. I'm not going to ask you any of those questions, but you are currently charged with that, right?
That's what your
I've
charge
currently been
is.
charged with a crime.
14 counts of crimes, correct?
Is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Counts 1 through 14
okay.
for communicating threats to kill someone.
Yeah, like I say, that's still,
That's not the first time you've been charged with communicating threats to kill somebody.
Look here, bruh. He's not saying you did it. He's saying you're charged with it. And that is the truth. You are charged with it.
Either, is it?
can you specifically,
I can't.
no, it's not. I've never actually threatened to kill someone.
Kylie Cross,
Kylie Cross.
the girl you got the CBD from.
Kylie Cross, I had a sexual relationship with her.
Oh,
And I
dear.
told her that and she stole $1,600 out of my dresser drawer. And I told her,
Back the van up. Does anybody believe that this man had $1,600 in his dresser drawer ever? Okay. Jennifer asks, inquiring minds want to know where the Bendy nickname came from. Let me tell you what had happened. I was on Alex Erickson's panel, and I said we were not talking about Sarah Boone that wasn't like the theme or the title of the live, but somehow or another, I brought up Sarah Boone, and I had mentioned that I had a suitcase that was similar to the size of the suitcase that she put George Torres in. And I said, I think that I can fit in that suitcase. I'm bendy. I think I can fit, something like that. And then Melissa Jade wrote out what I had said and put the date by it, which was 2024 or 2020. It might have even been 2023. Anywho, from then on, everybody just started calling me Bendy. I'm bendy. I can fit, I think is what I said. And again, this is an excellent point made by Patricia. Jen, he didn't even have a dresser. Yes, I don't. Do you have a dresser in your van? Because I don't feel like, okay, here we go. Let's finish. We're almost done with this clown.
That if she ever came back to my house, that I was going to end her. I didn't say I was going to kill her.
That's what she thought you said, isn't it?
I mean,
That's why she went to the police and had you arrested.
Yeah.
That's why you were charged with threatening her.
I probably should have taken that one to trial because I feel like I would have won.
That's two, I guess. You should have taken a trial, but you didn't. You pled guilty to that one, too.
Uh-oh.
You got probation and 45 days in jail on that case, too, right, sir?
It was actually I'm still trying to figure out what this has to do with Hannah and what your.
It has to do with you.
It has to,
Okay.
look,
And
it has to do with, I thought you were the knower of all the things. I thought you were the smartest man in every room, and you pride yourself on being an intellectual. So if you're so intellectual, you would understand what this has to do with it. You're up there testifying in a court of law, all right? He is asking you these questions because your credibility is an issue. Your recall of the events and how they occurred is in question here. Basically, he is wondering if you are a lying liar face who tells lies and lives on liar's lane without actually asking you. It's a tactful way of asking you these questions. He's putting your credibility in question in front of the jury, Mr. Intellectual.
I get to ask you questions, and it has to do with you.
okay.
But that's what you did. You threatened her, and you spent time in jail because you pled guilty in that case.
I mean, a lot of the circumstances in my life, if I really would have just called the cops, and I should have called the cops on Kylie Cross when I caught her stealing $1,600 out of my drawer.
You ain't first of all,
and like I said,
you ain't had no drawer and you ain't had no $1,600. You need to stop.
yeah, I mean,
Maybe it didn't
just
happen.
just as you're proving right now that there's like a real sinister nature by your tone and your. I mean, we're here to talk about a baby, and all you seem to want to be is obsessed with me. So it's like, I mean,
I'm not obsessed with you, sir.
then stop asking me questions about myself and let's talk about the crime that happened.
I'm asking you about sinister things because you've committed sinister acts.
Saying-
And I'm asking you those things
saying
because of how
something-
they have affected this young lady as well.
Saying and doing, these all happened after this incident with Coin. All of these circumstances happened.
Right. Well, what he's trying to say is, Mr. Intellectual, is to connect the dots. Okay. That it is because of the type of person that you and your homeboy Z are, that you are part of the set of circumstances and part of the environment in which this girl and this baby were in. And you impacted and affected her because of your bullshit and your shenanigans and your wrong ass thinking. You impacted her negatively. That's his point. I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I'm just saying that's what his point is. You ain't have a drawer. You ain't have a dresser. You need to stop it, bruh.
After this incident with Coin.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
So do you want to maybe, give some, maybe we should talk about the trauma that I experienced and how that has affected me and, what has led to me being irate with people. And like I say, the Sandra Torres thing.
Irate with people.
I'm happy to talk about that because, I want that. I plan to appeal that to the Superior Court of North Carolina. And I've already spoken to.
Let me explain something to you, sir. You took a plea. A plea negates an appeal. I mean, there are circumstances under which you can appeal, but there are a very specific set of circumstances, and typically it has to be evidence that wasn't available at the time that you took the plea. Okay, actual new evidence. It can't be like evidence that wasn't available because you didn't know, or you didn't go through your discovery or whatever, or your attorney didn't go. It has to be actually new evidence, new to you, your attorney, and the state. But you are an intellectual and pride yourself on that. Okay.
Civil rights attorneys about
Please
the false
go
evidence
on.
that was submitted against me in Buncombe County.
So you're testifying, your testimony earlier was that you never struck Sandra Torres in the eye.
No, I didn't. And there's like some evidence that would prove that in the motion of discovery.
So how did she get the black eye that she says she got in those photographs?
Who knows? Like, I mean, there was like... So
I can
she-
show you other photographs from her of her black.
You literally justified that you slammed her to the ground. So I don't know how, if you slammed her to the ground with telekinesis, how you didn't touch her.
Guy that developed over the next 3 days. Would you like
So
to see those?
she went to the hospital, and her hospital visit was 4 hours after the event. Maybe it was her son, the one who came and slashed tires. Maybe she had her son punch her in the face.
She might have, but we don't get to know that, sir, because you pled guilty to assaulting her.
Well,
You pled guilty to doing exactly what she says you did to her, which is punching her in the eye.
I had been held for 22 months, and I felt that I had a really strong civil rights case, and that's only been a year ago. Like I say, I've already spoken to civil rights attorneys, so I did. I wanted to. I pled guilty pursuant to Alfred law because I wanted to stop being oppressively persecuted by the Buncombe County government and get out, so I could.
You were in jail a lot of that time because you violated your probation in your case with Kylie Cross as well, right?
No, that was not the case with Kylie Cross.
You were on probation for that case from 2022.
No, I was not. That's so I had actually become off probation, and it wasn't a violation of probation that. Can I have some more of this water? It wasn't a violation of probation that got me reincarcerated on the 5th of April 2023 after they had held me for 8 months on 24-hour house arrest. So I did 10 months in jail. I finally made bond. And they held me for 8 months. And I'm happy to talk about this. This is like a really good venue. I appreciate being able to speak this out before a court.
Fantastic.
Because
Let's hear
this
it.
is all factual information that's going to come out later. And so after they held me for 8 months on 24-hour house arrest, there was a document submitted to the court by a DA, a specific DA that was targeting me, named Amy Laura Broughton. And there was false evidence submitted to the court. She brought this photo of a Facebook post that she said that I made, but it was right there it was not on my Facebook, nor did I make this post. And so, like I say, there was false evidence submitted to the court in order to persecute me and frame me. And and I've already, like I say, I've already spoken to several civil rights attorneys about this, and they say they have a very strong case. So, we're moving forward with that in due diligence, and I absolutely have every intention of appealing that guilty plea to the Superior Court of North Carolina and making sure that I get a fair trial, because that's the whole thing. They didn't want it. That's why they held me for so long, and they were refusing to give me court dates even by law. But like I say, and so like I say, I pled guilty to that to end my incarceration. But yeah, I came here today to tell my experience with Kawani and give an account to my observation of her and her mental health decline. And I'll say it again, that I do feel like not guilty by reason of insanity would be the correct call from my unprofessional perspective. Perhaps there's something that, I just don't feel like I say, she would never do that to her baby. And this was just like, she was like not herself when she did that. And I want her to know that I care about her and I forgive her and I love her very much. And that's it.
Any redirect?
Just briefly.
Just briefly, okay.
Ms. Billers, you indicated that you had multiple conversations with her after she was arrested for murdering Hannah, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And when she called Z from jail.
Okay. And so you indicated the nature of those was communicating how much you all love her and that you forgive her for what she did.
Yes.
Did she ever
Yes,
tell
it
you why
is.
she
This
killed
is
Hannah?
what's so funny to me, Brad.
No, I don't think she ever. I don't think she ever really did. I mean, she spoke to Z about it. I remember, and I'm giving you secondhand information here.
Don't do that. I'm asking, did she ever tell, when you talked to her, did she
I
ever
don't
tell
remember
you?
her ever saying anything about that.
Okay. Did she ever tell you that she told the police that she killed Hannah because she just wanted to be with her baby and her husband, but he refused?
What do you mean?
Did she ever tell you that that's what she told the police? That she just wanted to be with him and Hannah, but he...
What do you mean? What does she mean? Did you not understand the question? Do you need a diagram? Do you need it in picture form?
refused?
Oh, no.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
Nothing like that.
Okay.
No, I could tell you something, but I don't know. I mean,
Did she ever tell you that she told doctors that she killed Hannah because she thought it was the only way for her and Hannah to be able to escape the situation?
no, definitely not.
You've never heard that before?
No.
Okay. Nothing.
Any further cross-examination? All right.
All right. We're going to
we
take
are
a little
going to-
break real quick. We're going to have a little palate cleanser. And just for anybody that has just come in at the tail end of this conversation, of this examination, give me just one moment really quickly, and I will sum up his testimony for you like this.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
There you go. That's my summary of all the things that he just testified to. None of it made any sense. None of it was rational. None of it was intelligent. None of it was even in the realm of intellectual. Okay. So they take a break. And now we are going to hear from the next witness, who is the pediatric forensic pathologist. All right. So, right. Is that what that says? Yeah. Pediatric forensic pathologist. All right. So let's listen to what she has to say and go from there. All right. Here we go.
Brief understanding of what an autopsy is and what do you do when you do an autopsy?
Yes, so an autopsy is an examination of a person who has died. There are two major parts of the autopsy, the external examination and the internal examination. The external examination is very similar to the type of examination that you and I get when we go to the doctor. We obtain a height and weight. We look at the body in general in terms of just the features of the body. If there are any injuries that may be identified, those are documented and identified. Following the external examination, the internal examination is when cuts are made in the body to remove the organs. Once the organs are removed, those organs are evaluated and looked at for either a natural disease process or if they are injured, the injuries are documented. And the overall purpose for doing the autopsy is to determine the cause of the individual's death and then ultimately a manner of death.
Forensic pathology, how is that different, say, someone that's just a doctor and does pathology?
Forensic pathology is a subspecialty of pathology. A practicing pathologist usually works in the hospital. These are the doctors that will look at and evaluate tissues and organs. If you have surgery, for instance, if you have an appendix taken out, the pathologist is the doctor that looks at that appendix and makes a diagnosis. It may be a tumor or cancer in an organ or maybe just an infectious process. The forensic specialty of pathology involves focusing on cause and manner of death, particularly if the death is sudden, unexpected, of violent means, or under suspicious circumstances.
And you talk about cause of death and then type of death. What type of causes of death and things do you look for in cases?
So causes of death may be a natural disease process, it may be an acute drug toxicity, it may be an injury such as a gunshot wound or a stab wound. These are the type of things that are causes of death. It's the thing that actually finally results ultimately in a person dying.
After looking at the cause of death, the act or the thing that caused death to a person, do you also classify what type of manner of death it is?
Yes, sir.
And what are those categories for that?
And the manner of death is a limited amount of manners. So manners are limited, at least in the state of Georgia, to 5. Most states have 5, some states may have 6. The manner of death involves or is focused on the circumstances by which an individual has died. So a homicide manner of death is when the circumstances are that another individual's actions caused that person's death. Suicide is a manner in which your own actions cause your death. You've taken your own life. Accident is a manner in which some inadvertent event, like a car accident or fall, has caused the death. Natural manner is when a natural disease process causes your death, such as pneumonia or heart attack. And when you can't really be definitive about either of those four, another category of manner is undetermined.
Do you do autopsy in all homicides in the state of Georgia?
If they are reported, yes, sir. They should be reported. So under the laws of the state, yes, they should be.
Under the Georgia Death Investigation Act, are there certain times when you have to do an autopsy?
Yes, sir.
And when you have a criminal investigation where there's a homicide or was suspected of a homicide, is the GBI the place where the remains of the person is sent for an autopsy?
That's correct.
And when you
Well,
have...
I should say, in some counties have their own medical examiner's office. So GBI is the state's medical examiner's office. The GBI is responsible for 152 of the 159 counties in Georgia. There are 7 metro counties that have a county medical examiner's office. In those instances, the body would go to those offices.
Do you know how many autopsies a year that you have to do on an average?
Me personally or our
Yes.
office?
Or both?
Personally, I probably average around 350 to 370. Or in some cases, I've done more than that, just depending on our staff purposes. I believe our office handles about 4,500 or so autopsies per year.
And how many people are actually medical examiners in the state?
Currently, in our GBI system, there's 15.
When you do an autopsy, do you generate a report?
Yes, sir.
Is that in every case that you do that?
That's correct.
And when you do a report, what are the things that you are documenting in that report? It goes to evidence of injury and things like that.
So the report is going to document the autopsy itself. It's going to have the sections that deal with the external examination aspect of the autopsy that I talked about, and then it's going to have the section that involves the internal examination. Then there's also a summary and an opinion, and the cause and manner of death are indicated in the autopsy report.
And personal witness, Your Honor. Dr. Aaron, you state Exhibit 88. You just double check that, make sure that that is your autopsy report in this case.
Yes, sir.
So that's entered into evidence states 88.
No objection.
It's admitted.
May I post it, Your Honor?
Yes.
All right, Doctor, what I want to do is I kind of want to walk through your report, and I'm not going to show everything, but in this case, do you have a DOFS case number that relates to the autopsy and all the reports from the GBI? What would that be?
That's correct. So that would be the unique identifying number for a specific case. It begins with the year of the autopsy and then a specific number that is assigned to that case.
And looking at State's Exhibit 88 here in the top right is what is the case number in this case?
It's 2020 representing 2020, and the case number is 103-1455.
And what was the date that you generated this report?
I completed the report on December 30th, 2020.
And we'll get into the evidence here, and if you would, give us the, what day did you receive the remains in this case of Hannah?
That I have to find out where that is on the report. I can tell you the day I did the autopsy was on December 10th.
You see where it says evidence on this first page here? December 9th, 2020.
Yes, sir. Okay, so yeah, that's the day it was received. The autopsy was performed the following day.
And how does the GBI receive a person, the remains?
So I talked about the GBI is responsible for the 152 counties. Each county will have a coroner who is responsible for handling the deaths in that county. The bodies are received at our office in a body bag from the county of origin.
And here, who did you perform the autopsy on?
I performed the autopsy on Hannah Driver.
And can you tell us the statistics on Hannah, who she was in the sense of how much she weighed and how old she was?
Now, even though we know what happened to Hannah is not, and who did it is not in dispute in this trial, obviously. But I do think that as someone who covers true crime, that it is my responsibility to tell the victim's story in part. And so if I were to skip this testimony, even though it's not in dispute, I feel like knowing these details, as hard as it is important because it's part of what happened to Hannah and it is part of Hannah's story. And so that's why we're going to listen to it. I know it's hard, but that's just how I feel. All right, here we go.
Yeah, so that is in my autopsy report on page 3, beginning in the general external examination. This was a 13-month-old white child who was 23 pounds and 30 inches.
13 months, you said?
Yes.
When you perform an autopsy, I want to get into this section. You have a section in the report here, and I believe this is, I'm trying to figure out this on page 3 or 4 of yours. Evidence of injury, do you see that?
Yes, sir.
What page is it on yours there?
It starts on page 2 and ends on page 3.
So the evidence of injury, I've noted, is it correct that you actually, when you go through this, I think there are 8 injuries or 8 things you note on evidence of injury?
Yes, I itemize 8 injuries.
And tell the jury, if you would, when you are performing an autopsy, do you visually give an entire perspective and look over all parts of the body to see what type of injuries there are and how they relate to the other injuries?
Yes, sir.
And how much did you know about what took place in this case before you did the autopsy?
So at the beginning of any autopsy, there is always investigative information and circumstantial information of that individual's death. And in fact, we will really not start an autopsy until we have some basic information. And this is just very similar to when we go to the doctor, we have to provide some information as to why we're there. And that focuses us on what we should expect and the type of autopsy we want to do. So the information that we get comes from the coroner. When the coroner reports the death in their county, they provide information of the circumstances of death. For instance, this was an individual that was found dead in bed, and the husband says she has a history of hypertension. That would be a hypothetical of an older person that died in bed. In this particular instance, the information that we received was this was an individual child who had recently moved into a family with her mother, and then there was injuries that were identified on the child at the home. I mean, there was a lot more information, but I'm giving a very brief summary of such.
Did you know that this was a stabbing case?
Yes.
And when you're looking for the injuries, let's go through. You have the 8 here, beginning with the first one, the right anterior neck stab wound. Tell us about that one, number 1 you have.
So she had stab wounds on the front of her neck, being the anterior neck. The number 1 that I identified was a stab wound that penetrated somewhat superficially just into the tissues of the neck, into the muscle tissues, did not penetrate very deeply into the vital structures or vascular structures of the neck. The main structures in the neck would be the trachea, the esophagus, and like the carotid artery, the jugular veins.
The second one you have is left anterior neck. Tell us about that one, if you would.
This was another stab wound in the neck that was very similar in terms of its degree of injury to number 1. Not very deep into the neck, mainly stopped and penetrated the muscles, and no vital or vascular structures.
The third injury or stab wound is the central anterior lower neck. Seems to have more information on this one. Was this a more significant injury?
Yes, this was the most significant stab wound of the neck. In terms of the injuries that it caused, the sharp object, in this case being a knife, penetrated the neck, and it severed or completely cut across the carotid artery, which is the major artery that supplies blood to the brain. There was an injury of the esophagus as well, and there was a defect that went all the way to the cervical vertebra related to this stab wound. It did not go through the vertebra into the spinal cord itself, but it stopped right at the vertebra, and there was a defect or a small nick on the vertebral bone.
And this third injury that you note here, it appears to be, you talk about extensive hemorrhaging, and then I think you just talk about the trail of the injury itself. How much do you remember when you say extensive hemorrhaging? How much is that?
So in terms of all the tissues that are in the neck, I can see all the blood that's in the tissues, and I can just measure the extent of it. Also, though, there was also, as she was received, she was wearing a shirt that was saturated with blood. So I can't actually quantify in like a volume of how much blood there is, but I make note of a size range of the hemorrhage in the tissues.
It appears the knife traveled through, I think I've got here, the muscle trap, carotid artery, esophagus, and then into the 4th vertebrae. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then how deep ultimately was at least how deep was the wound depth?
I measured it as at least 2 inches.
Patricia, I read your limerick, and as soon as the doctor is finished testifying, I will absolutely read that out. Or you guys should, if you're away from your phone, or come over to your device right now, please, and read Patricia's limerick, because it is very, very, very good. And should be appreciated fully by everybody. Carolina says, Jen Lou, why do you think Z ran upstairs when Chloe Driver was attacking Hannah and herself? Is it possible that he was aware of mental disability? I think that that he likely was aware of mental illness being an issue for Chloe, because we're going to find out through other testimony that he himself has been diagnosed with with a specific mental illness, and I don't want to say what that is because I don't remember if it's exactly what I'm remembering, and so I want to just be careful. But I think that I think he was aware that things were not right with Chloe, and I don't think he cared, if I'm being quite honest. I think that the only reason that it became an issue for him is because of what ultimately happened with Hannah. I don't think he actually gave a rat's fat kneecap about Chloe. To me, what I perceive the situation being is that he basically regarded Chloe as trying to put this as delicately as I can, but I think that he regarded her value as a human being in that she was able to procreate. I think that is the extent of how he viewed her and how important he was, her level of importance to him. That is what I think. And Patricia says, I think he was more aware that their views and confines in the cult could be blamed, and he was afraid to face that. And that's probably true as well, Patricia. That's accurate too. Brad says, Carolina, what made him run up there and break the door down? I don't think there was noises until he screamed. The way that I understood the sequence of events is that when he was finished getting their items or his items, whatever property, out of the basement of Jerry's house, right? And he was ready to leave. The other two wives were downstairs and I think outside also, like they were ready to go too. And I think what happened is, I don't think he necessarily ran upstairs like with a sense of urgency because he thought something was wrong. I think he went up the stairs initially to basically tell Chloe, let's go, shake a leg, it's time to go. And when he went to go in the room, he tried to open the door and found that it was locked. And so I think that is what then sounded the alarm. But that's the way that I understood the testimony. I might be wrong about that. All right, here we go.
Now the fourth, there's an injury, paragraph 4 here. What was that?
So the other injuries 4 through 8 that I identified were much more minor. Number 4, there was a collection of abrasions on her chin, the lower part of her chin. Those are grouped together as one injury.
And then you had the 5th, right interior chin.
Yes.
Just some marks there too that you noted.
Yeah, the other injuries, well, I should say the 4, 5, and 6 were abrasions, which are small little marks. Sometimes they can be caused by, some of these may have been caused by the sharp object maybe nicking the skin. It was kind of unclear whether these were actually caused by a sharp object or maybe something else that scraped across her lower chin as she was being stabbed.
For the 7th evidence of injury, you talk about an injury to the back, right upper back. What was that?
She also had a stab wound on the right upper back. The stab wound on the right upper back only penetrated into the muscle of the back. It did not go deep into and actually go into her body cavity at all.
And then finally, the eighth evidence of injury, what is that? The medial upper chest.
Yeah, on her chest, she had two small little puncture type marks. Unclear again here whether these were related to the knife causing small little punctures on her chest. So I just described them as puncture marks.
Vanessa says, I think Chloe could be a threat to the sister wives and their children. She was distraught because she wanted Z to herself. And that is certainly possible. I mean, and a very, if I were them, I would be concerned. Absolutely. I would be worried. Absolutely. I think a large part of why Z didn't want to ever get, why he didn't want Chloe to have prenatal care, why he didn't want her to give birth in the hospital, why after she started showing symptoms and signs of a potential mental illness, he didn't want her to get help, is because, quite frankly, I think what he was afraid of is I think he was afraid of the medical staff, be it medical doctors, nurses, psychiatrists, speaking to Chloe and being able to ascertain information related to how they got together, specifically her age at the time. And I think that that's what his main concern was, because medical professionals, being that they are mandated reporters, are also trained in how to question and ask potential victims about things without putting the victim on the defense. And so I think that what he was really worried about, again, was himself. And I think he was very worried about them being able to get information out of Chloe, because I do suspect that there was contact that would be deemed illegal due to her age. Besides it being just wrong, like morally, I think that it's also illegal. And I think that was I think that was his main concern, to be quite honest with you.
Your approach. I mean, State's Exhibits 89 through 98. See if those are.
This is something really interesting that you bring up, Patricia. Patricia says a woman with borderline personality disorder was always going to feel entitled to be the only wife woman in a man's life. Now, I'll say this. If you guys, do you guys remember Betty Broderick? Okay. So Betty Broderick was charged and after 2 trials was subsequently convicted of the murders of her ex-husband, Dan Broderick, and his new wife, Linda. Okay. And Betty's testimony was always that she intended to unalive herself in front of them. That is why she went to their home that night. That is why she went to their home that night armed with a gun. And that was her intention. That's what she's testified to, right? That's what she says. Well, that's obviously not what happened. She didn't hurt herself at all. But when she was evaluated by psychiatrists, she was also diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And the psychiatrist testified that a person with borderline personality disorder may make a self-harm attempt, but it isn't a legitimate self-harm attempt, meaning they actually don't intend to end their life, that it is more of an attempt at attention. That's what they're actually trying to get, that a person with borderline personality disorder thinks too highly of themselves to do that. So I just thought that was interesting to note, that if that Chloe has been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. I don't know if that school of thought has changed. I can only tell you what that psychiatrist testified to at that trial. So I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't work in the psychiatric field. I'm not qualified to diagnose anything. I'm just telling you what was reported. That school of thought. It's been a long time since Betty Broderick was on trial, so that school of thought may have changed.
Photographs that you recognize from the autopsy.
Hi, Brad. Thanks for coming.
Just categorize them as two punctate marks on her chest. They did not penetrate anything. They're just very superficial.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let me rewind.
Doctor, did you find the absence of natural diseases or natural deaths that could explain the death of the child here?
Correct. So during the course of an autopsy, of course, I see these injuries. A complete autopsy is further performed where all of the organs of the body are taken out, they're looked at, because you also want to identify whether there was any other cause of death or a competing cause or a contributory cause. This was a 13-month-old child. I didn't find any other natural disease processes or injuries that caused or contributed to her death. And we may have done toxicology too. Yeah, I'm not actually sure, but oftentimes in such deaths, we'll do a toxicology analysis.
Doctor, when I'm going to page 6 and 6 of your report and your opinion summary, in your expert opinion, can you even say, you can say that there are 4 stab wounds, is that right?
Yes, the 3 on the neck and the 1 on the back.
But can you in any way tell the jury which one occurred first and what order those happened in?
No, sir.
Is there anything else about the stab wounds that you could give the jury information about that's relevant to the cause of death and the manner of death of Hannah?
Not more than what we've talked about so far.
And when it comes ultimately to your opinion, what is your opinion for the cause of death of Hannah?
I certify the cause of death as stab wounds of the neck.
And in your expert opinion, your medical expert opinion, do you have an opinion on the manner of death? What is the manner of Hannah's death?
So based upon the circumstances, I certified the manner of death as homicide.
Nothing further on.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well.
Good. I just have 1 or 2 brief questions for you. So the manner of death listed as homicide, that's really just one of, I think you said 4 or 5 ways that you have to classify?
That's one of the 5 manners that we have available to us, yes.
Okay, and typically the medical definition of homicide is that it's a death caused by the actions of another individual.
That's correct.
Okay. You're not making any assessment as to the underlying facts of the case or anything related to that when you make that medical determination, correct?
Correct. It's not a legal definition. So there is the difference between legal standards of things that happen when other people cause the death of another. Ours is homicide being hands at the actions of another individual.
Okay. As a medical definition is what you're telling me.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Go ahead.
And Dr. Defense counsel asked you questions about your opinion. Basically, your area of expertise is medicine, so you're reaching an opinion on the medical side of it being a homicide. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you're not giving your opinion whether or not this was murder, because that's a decision that's for someone else, specifically the jury, to make, not an expert in the field. Is that right?
That's correct.
So at times there are certain opinions that are given by experts, but ultimately some questions, the forensic question, is going to be reserved to the jury. Is that right?
That's correct.
But we can't agree that the manner of death is one person's conduct or actions causing the death of another person, right?
Yes, in this case, yes, this is a homicide.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh man, I can't believe I just did that. I didn't mean to skip all the way back to the beginning, but I will say that I think we've reached a good stopping point, because the next person that's going to testify is the state's psychiatrist. And so I kind of want to keep that like separate because I think I'm really interested in that evaluation. And I've been going now for like over 3 hours and I'm kind of getting a little bit tired. So I'm going to let you guys go for today with this recap. Tonight, I intend to recap what happened today during the Susan Smith parole hearing. I want to talk about that tonight, but it's going to be a late night stream because at 8:30 Eastern time, Melissa Jade is going over some emails that Wade Wilson got that are quite interesting to me. And I think they would be interesting to you guys as well. So I will be doing a late night recap stream for you all tonight. And then tomorrow, because Leilani has her sentencing in the morning, and I absolutely want to stream that and be a place for people to come and listen to that. What I'll do then is tomorrow night I will then recap. We'll do the state's expert witness, the psychiatrist who evaluated Chloe. But for now, that's really all that I have for you guys. I want to thank you all very, very much for being here and supporting the channel and me. If you haven't done so already, could you please?
And Kai, when you're on Jen Lou's channel, what do you do with the like button?
Smash, smash, smash! Yeah.
Yeah. Smash that like button for you, girl. Or, look, if you don't think I was at my very best today or you didn't like it or whatever, I ain't gonna judge. You can give me a thumbs down if you think I deserve it. Whichever. Just one of them, please. I would appreciate it. But that's really all I have for you guys for this stream. I will see you later on tonight. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you tonight. Bye.
Cause it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got shit to do. Well, fuck you.
No malicious intent or effort was towards it.
No malicious. Finish her.
Minutes later.
We all do a little math sometimes.